So, beg your pardon, we've just been informed that we have had some audio issues on our broadcast, which is very disappointing because I think we were on quite good form just prior to us realising that. So, that's a bit of a shame. To recap what we were talking about, it was a great race last round for the Race on Oz guys. Kurt Stenberg still leads the championship. Thank you very much to Floodman for filling in for me last round. And what else? I think that was about it. Madbird?
You did previously thank me for filling in, but I guess that's not important, so let's not worry about that. I was saying that I had a large amount of respect for the work that you do after having done it myself, so I was happy to have you back. So that I can handle most of the responsibility onto you and just sit here and talk, basically, which is very nice. And then we went through the teams and the drivers' stairs.
We certainly did. It's got me wondering whether my shortcut keys are working, because I distinctly remember pressing the shortcut key to unmute the microphone. But anyway, well, let's not linger on that, because we've got a practice session in prospect. In prospect, it's mostly done. 10 minutes of it remain, though, so plenty of time for those leaderboards to get shaken up. Still a few rather large names not actually present as it stands.
Yeah, we do have Jake Maloney, who would have been quite disappointed, I think, with his results from Perth. Although starting from the back of the grid in race 2 and finishing on the podium, I wouldn't be too disappointed with, but he certainly should have had a win in both races, I reckon. Finds himself just narrowly behind Kurt Stenberg, who, as it happens, is not in the server yet. Jake Maloney is, Colin Warwick is, and Ethan Warren, for the first time in a few rounds, has deigned to join us in his Mustang, the Astro Altus Esports number 59 Mustang. So good to see him back. Hopefully we get a few more people in here before the session starts. Currently only 13 people in the server. We've got 10 minutes left in practice session.
That's right. Well, Winton has actually been touted as one of those circuits that is not particularly popular amongst drivers, and as a result, the sign-ups were a little bit lower this week than they have been in previous rounds. And of course, what is one person's loss is actually someone else's gain. So there's 5 entries opening up from the Super 2 race being held tonight. So that gives a few of the young and up-and-comings a bit more of an opportunity to jump up into the main game.
Yeah, the Super 2 race running concurrent with this practice session should be wrapping up probably any time now, I would expect. You've read my mind, Stairs, and have gone to find out how that race is going, as I was just about to, and it looks like you're on the AMS Oz one rather than the RSM Latino one, so we're getting there. And RSM Latino, in fact, is not the name of the live races. rsmclan.liveraces.com for anyone wanting to watch the timing at home. Currently just looking at Thomas McMillan, who's currently heading the timesheets in the pits. So he's set a 1:21.9. So the only one to have surpassed Ethan Warren so far. Meanwhile, Adam Zeitinger down in 11th place, and Sean Allen showing some decent pace, along with his teammate Brody Steen for Race On Oz Racing. Both of them with fantastic races last time out in Perth. Double podiums in both races for the Race On Oz Racing team, which has catapulted them up to 3rd place in the teams championship, only just shy of Trans-Tasman Racing.
That's right. And for those of you playing us at home who also want to see our chests, we have a experimental stream going on my own personal YouTube channel. The stream, unfortunately, is not looking at where it should be because the camera's fallen down just a little bit, and I haven't had an opportunity to rectify that. I do hope to do so in a short while, or Madbird may well decide to do that. It's a bit of an experimental setup, but essentially we've got a camera in the commentary box watching us as we fumble our way through the beginning of this broadcast. Madbird's currently looking at the camera with arms folded, trying to decide what it is that he's going to do to rectify the situation. So clearly pointing the camera above my head is the tack that he's chosen for it. Unfortunately, it's attached to a rather flimsy device. So anyway, 6 minutes remaining in qualifying, and Sean Allen having a rather big moment on the approach to turn 7 there, and goes well off the track and recovers back to the track to fight for another day. And it's looking like a good run of form that Sean Allen's in based on his double win last round in Perth. So looking to potentially take over the lead of the championship if Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg, who are both absent at the moment, don't show the sort of pace that they've been showing throughout the entire season. Makes you wonder what sort of pace they can get up to, considering they're not in the practice session. Maybe doing a bit of offline practice.
Yeah, trying to conceal their pace somewhat, perhaps. Don't show your hand. Don't let everyone see how fast you are. Yeah, appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to this one. How long have we got? We've got 5 minutes left here in this practice session, and not really too much going on at the moment. Just got those 13 cars in the server at the moment. Kurt Stenberg has joined us, thank goodness. So our championship rivals or antagonists to one another, I suppose, Kurt Stenberg and Jake Maloney, both in the server, along with, looks like the other Trans-Tasman Racing, Emery Jones has joined us. So
good to see her back.
Absolutely, good to see her back. Hopefully a better result than out in Perth, Stairs.
Yeah, I didn't catch much of Emily in Perth, and that's because she didn't end up being in the race for very long, unfortunately. So from the highs of winning the opening race of the championship, she's been absent ever since then, and her return was not very illustrious, it has to be said. So we hope for something much better for her tonight in Winton.
For sure. It looks as if the Super 2 race has concluded. JP Courier, I believe, was the name of the driver that won that particular one, but the live timing has now disappeared, which is nice and handy. I believe that he will be one of the ones joining the full session if he so desires. It's a lot of racing to do, a full Super 2 race and then 2 full Super races if he did decide to do so. So I think we had a couple of people come in Perth, a couple of people decided not to.
That's right, and as I mentioned earlier on, with the low number of entries for this round, they're opening it up to as many as 5 drivers from Super 2 to get wildcard entries into tonight's racing. So the results we have in front of us now for the Super 2 race, as you mentioned, Madbird JP Courier winning that race by 19.5 seconds, so a dominant victory there over Termo, who came second. Ahead of Cam Rutledge. A few names that we're quite familiar with from our days commentating in Automobilista Australia. So good to see those guys up there. Tony in 4th place. Stephen
on you, Tony.
Burko in 5th place. Behind him, Wayne Carr, Brap, Instinct, Acclaim Bite, Dodger, and Stenny. So a few guys there who people who would have watched the broadcasts that we did at the beginning of the season would be familiar with, and Dodger and Stenny unfortunately DNFs actually in that race, both with suspension damage. So whether or not that was 2 separate incidents or one incident that caused both of their DNFs, we don't know. So we certainly remember quite a few shenanigans that some of those drivers had in Tasmania.
Absolutely. Yes, not much else to say to that, to be honest. We are watching Zach Baker turning some laps here in practice. He was sort of a dark horse out in Perth. He managed to get a podium in the first race, was battling for a podium in the second race, but just narrowly lost out. Solid pace all that round, so I would expect him to be up there. Currently only 10th fastest, but and he had a massive swapper there. Don't spend it all in practice, mate. You got to save some for the race. But I would expect him to get higher up during qualifying. He's probably just doing a little bit of turning some laps, getting a little bit of consistency in there. Although that swap of oversteer would not inspire confidence. Many corners on this track, Stairs. Just a piece of trivia. There are several corners.
And for those of you playing at home, several translates to 12. And we'll go through that when we jump into the qualifying session. Take you on board for a lap of this Winton circuit. It's funny, it's really quite a tight circuit, not particularly wide. But having said that, you would have expected me to say that it's a difficult track to pass on, but it's funny that people seem to find a way to get past on this circuit. So maybe it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is.
Maybe not. I guess there are a lot of corners, and quite a lot of them are pretty heavy braking zones. So there are opportunities to get up alongside into a corner and take a position. So yeah, it could be that people just I don't listen to them, to be honest. Colin Warwick, second fastest behind Thomas McMillan. Ethan Warren down to fourth, and Adam Zeiting has jumped up there into third so far. So some interesting people at the top of the chain in practice. 43 seconds to go.
Yeah, we know Thomas McMillan does a lot of laps in practice, and it's showing tonight. And I think this is a circuit that really does reward those who put in the effort in practice, because 121.5, he's a quarter of a second ahead of Colin Warwick. The next man up is Adam Zeitinger, and there's quite a few illustrious names missing from that list. I haven't actually seen any laps being turned by Kurt Stenberg. I hope he's not having to deal with any technical issues server side, being, of course, one of the admins for this championship. Although having said that, his co-organizer Colin Warwick is up there in second, so perhaps not. Jake Maloney also missing from the timesheets.
Yeah, perhaps as we were suggesting earlier, perhaps they are doing some offline practice, or have done some offline practice ahead of the race, and are just hoping to come into it hot. It looks as if we've had Termo, Tony, Steve Burko, and Cam Rutledge join in from the Super 2 race. Just missing the first place winner, JP Courier, from the top 5. So not sure if he'll be deciding to join us or not. But good work for those ones for getting the call up. Lewis in the chat just saying he loves Thomas. Ahood it! Yeet! So appreciate the input there, Lewis. Good work. Practice has now run out, and we'll be moving into qualifying shortly, Stairs.
For all the live timing and scoring, available at rsmclanau.liveraces.info, and you can get all of the information that we are looking at on our screen. Currently 20 drivers in the server, but only 14 of those drivers setting times in that practice session. I know that Winton is not the most popular track amongst drivers, but that's a bit ridiculous. So there's something to be gained here for those who put in the effort. And in the dying stages of that practice session, Ethan Warren put in a lap to put him 3/10, nearly 4/10 off of Thomas McMillan. Everyone else, apart from Colin Warwick and Ethan Warren, is outside of a second away from Thomas McMillan.
Yeah, so looking like Thomas McMillan is the man to beat at the moment, just having gone through practice. So we'll have to wait and see if that changes. I imagine that timer isn't correct. 35 minutes? No, surely not. There we go, 10 minutes. As I say that and draw attention to it, it fixes itself. So we've got, as Stairs said, 20 drivers. Who are we missing that we'd expect to be here? We don't have any David Nanadik, who was a...
we do.
Oh, we do? Never mind. Tried to make an interesting point and just completely fell on my ass. Will Devonish is an AI, apparently, so we'll have to hope that gets fixed. Don't want him to be an AI. Not that I have anything against artificial people, just, in general, they tend not to have the best racecraft. Plenty of people jumping straight out into the pit lane, ready to go. So we've got Emery Jones. She's eager. She's out in the pit lane, parked at a 45-degree angle as required in the driver's briefing. Everyone else just sort of sitting and waiting. To be a bad luck to be Tony, who's stuck behind Emery Jones, who's kind of parked directly across his pit exit. So just waiting for the lights to drop here before people get out. By the looks of it, everyone's sort of just biding their time. Got some tyres moving. Might just be on my screen. No, there we go. So we've got Kurt Stenberg's tyres spinning just for no particular reason by the looks of it, like he's on a dyno or something. As Isaac... Emery back to the pits, yeah. So as Isaac Edwards just said, are those wheels hovering? Looked as if they might have been, but it doesn't appear that there's any issues as everyone's now diving out as the lights go green. First man on the track is going to be... Oh, that is one of the Zach Baker Racing guys. That is Zach Baker himself leading the pack around.
Also of note tonight, Colin Warwick, you'll notice with the Penrite sponsorship on his car, the Stealth Penrite ZB Commodore, which is not the CWR Commodore that we're used to seeing him in. So he's Jay Borg's teammate tonight in the Stealth Penrite Racing team. So a change of teams for Colin Warwick, and I think he may well put some good points on the board for that team tonight.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame for his own team, CWR Racing, who are up there, I think, 6th or 7th position. So he's going to lose all those points. I think he's going to have to dip down and try to drag up Jay Borg with him. But I imagine he's up to the task. He is a very quick man. Oh my goodness! Someone saying that their brother is retarded. He has a rear of grid. So, no idea what that is. It's not English, I'll tell you that. Right?
Sorry, beg your pardon. That comment was held for review, which is why anyone, if you're wondering, who can't read it, that is the reason. But we've got David Nenedick now, about to start a lap, so we're going to go on board now, take you around a lap of this Winton Motor Raceway in Outback, Victoria, down to Turn 1, or not necessarily Outback, but fairly regional, down to Turn 1. Quite respectful of the curbs is David Nenedick there, as his teammate hasn't been, Zach Baker behind that you can't see. Down to Turn 3 and 4, please don't do that. A little bit wide of the apex there, coming out of 4 and then up towards the sweeper at Turn 5. This is one that's been flagged. If you go off here, do not return at Turn 7, or Turn 8, I beg your pardon, and do a McLaughlin, as was controversially the case in the race, in the real supercars on the weekend. Down to Turn 8. This is this twisty section. It's left, right. You're always turning. It's going to be quite hard on them. And important corner, actually, Turn 9. A little bit of oversteer there for David Nenedick, because he goes down to the tightest corner on the racetrack, Turn 10. And this is a very good overtaking opportunity. And then another short straight, the Falcon straight, down to Turn 11, where you've got a right-hander, which is immediately followed by another right-hander, or you could take to the pit entry if you like, but probably not a good idea on your fast qualifying lap. Final lap here, or final corner, I should say, for David Nenedick. He's going to come across the line and set the first lap in this qualifying session, a 1 minute 23.0.
Yeah, not the best lap. I imagine that's going to fall pretty quickly, and as I say that it does, Zach Baker takes his teammate's temporary pole position, and Jake Maloney, showing that he does have pace despite not putting in some laps in practice. A 121.2, sorry, and Kurt Stenberg only just behind him. That is incredibly close. That is about
It's about a second.
It's about a second. Yeah, my bad. I completely misread that. Ethan Warren in second place, Brody Steen in fourth. So the Race on Oz guys are showing a good turn of pace at the moment. We're still waiting on a few of our big runners to come around, waiting on Sean Allen. As I say that, never mind. He has pipped his teammate to the post. Fourth place currently for Sean Allen with a 122.5. And still waiting on... No, we're not. Emery Jones, the other Trans-Tasman Racing, down in 8th place. So I would expect she'd be faster than that. Definitely not her complete peak pace there, I don't think. And at the front, Jake Maloney just stamping his authority on this qualifying session. Less than a tenth back to Ethan Warren though, so I would not expect that to be a comfortable provisional pole position for him there.
Apologies to Lewis Kugeley in the live chat with the comment Dick Johnson. YouTube has decided to flag that one as an inappropriate message, and it has not been posted. We may well just override that and show it, because I don't necessarily think that could be considered a rude message.
Absolutely. I had a very similar discussion actually today at work. We've recently started doing social media stuff and got shown the page filter of things that if they get posted on the Facebook page get hidden. It was about 5 pages long, and it contained things such as nah and meeting. So very temperamental organisation is my work.
Well, meetings are obviously a place where there are many microaggressions and and things that could be considered harassment. Jake Maloney, speaking of harassment, still on the track, trying to harass the others into submission. Ethan Warren, second place man, who was 3/10 down on Jake Maloney. Jake Maloney has actually improved his time since they set their fastest laps, so he was only about 7/100ths of a second down on Jake when they did their first laps. So, and I think Jake's coming into the pits, so that's his in-lap. He did a 2-lap run. Ethan Warren did a 1-lap run. And who have we got left on the track? Still, Sean Allen is the leading man who's on the track at the moment. And a few other cars, apart from the leading 2, down in the bottom end of the field who are still in the pits, and that includes Michael Ford, Steve Burko, who has earned his place as one of the top 5 finishers in the Super 2 race as a wild carder. So too Termo. Other guys in the pits include Thomas McMillan and Tony, who have not set laps.
Thomas McMillan, in fact, in our live chat, saying loves a rog. So Thomas, get into the session and set a time, mate. You need to get up there. Showed that you had some pace during practice. Now get out there and do it in qualifying. Kurt Stenberg has lost out to the 2 Race on Oz guys, Sean Allen and Brody Steen, hopping ahead of him for 3rd and 4th positions. Kurt Stenberg down in 5th, so not looking good for him, hanging on to his championship lead at the moment.
Will Devonish currently sat in the top 10 and is looking good to improve his time. He's up by nearly 3/10 of a second. Won't be enough, though, to improve his position by the looks of it. He's got to find a thick end of 7/10 of a second to jump up into 9th, where David Nenadick sits. So that's a bit harsh. You'd think if you're down in 10th and you find 3/10 that would be worth at least a position or 2. But Will Devonish, what's he been able to find in the final sector of this lap? He's actually lost time, but he still improves on his overall lap time, 2/10 of a second. He remains 10th.
Still waiting on Thomas McMillan and Tony from the Super 2s to set a lap time. Looks as if Thomas McMillan is currently arguing with Lewis Kugeley in live chat about which Discord to use. You've only got 2 minutes, mate, so if you're planning to set a lap time, no time like the present, as my nana always said. I was going to go somewhere with that, but I've got nowhere to go with it, so not worth it in the end. Colin Warwick jumping Kurt Stenberg, who's just going backwards, down into 6th place now. He really needs to pull his finger out if he's going to take the fight to Jake Maloney. Thomas McMillan has a rear of grid penalty, presumably for an accident in race 1 last time out, which I was incredibly harsh in calling against him, I believe, at the time. So I really should have remembered that. My apologies, Thomas McMillan. Good luck from with your run from the back of the grid.
That actually, from a spectator point of view, serves us quite well for tonight, because Thomas McMillan, we know he's got some pace. So, he dropped from the session. That's the reason why it wasn't a crash. So
I've done it again.
Thank you, I'm a Car. He is I'm a Car in the live chat, giving us that information, and one of the guys running the server. So thank you for all of the work you do. Lots of people laughing. I assume at our expense. It's been a little bit of a sloppy start to the broadcast, but it can only get better. I mean, race 1 hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, no, I think nothing before the green lights drop for the first race really count. I don't think. You know, it's all warming up the vocal cords.
Oh.
You know, exactly. We're here going mama 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 me mama mama mama. The
Burkina Faso.
Exactly. We have less than 30 seconds to go. Rody with a big off. Oof, even. Well done there, mate. 20 seconds left in the
Yeah, you buggered that one up, didn't you?
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't going to... Kurt Stenberg up into third place while we've been chinwagging. 5/10 down on Jake Maloney's time, but he will be starting from the second row of the grid rather than the fourth row of the grid, although Sean Allen has just jumped him for third place. At this point, Kurt Stenberg might get relegated back to the third row of the grid, as he's right on the very teetering edge of that second row of the grid. Got to take the fight to Jake Maloney somehow. Got to pull his finger out, as I just said.
And don't forget to use the hashtag relegated. That's not actually a real hashtag. I just wanted to make a little inside joke.
We could make it a real hashtag.
Hashtag
relegated.
For all you Twitter users out there. So Kurt Stenberg is on a lap though, so he could possibly improve. And we also saw a moment ago that Brody Steen started a new lap just prior to the timer hitting 0. Jake Maloney improving again. Unbelievable there. He's nearly 5/10 clear. And doesn't look like Kurt Stenberg is going to improve on this lap. Sean Allen also. Ethan Warren is in the pits. Colin Warwick is in the pits. Brody Steen is coming into the pits. So looks like a lot of these positions are not going to change hands. Zach Baker is done by the looks of it, and so too David Nenedick. So Zach Baker Racing duo well represented in the top 10. Adam Zeitinger is in the pits, and so is Will Divenish. So Jake Maloney, the pole sitter for race 1 in Winton.
Definitely, he'll be happy with that, and we'll be hoping that there's no weird track glitches that send him off the track, which is what robbed him of a insurmountable lead in race 1 of last week. Last round. So all things going well, he is going to want to get a good start, which he's been managing to do. Kurt Stenberg, on the other hand, has had terrible starts the last couple of times out, so he'll be wanting to turn that around. Since he's starting from 4th, he should have a decent run down the back of the front row runners that are Jake Maloney and Ethan Warren. But he's going to need to get the job done pretty soon because in the past he just hasn't had the race pace to match Jake Maloney, and he's sort of fallen away once the race gets started. Jake Maloney having many technical gremlins and just sloppy, well, not sloppy, but he's had a few crashes and a bit of sloppy driving, which have really, I think he probably should have better results than he has. But that's racing, I guess, Stairs.
That is racing. Anything can and will happen, and I would have to say there is probably some concessions that you could give, considering that he's running the show as well. So there's all sorts of stresses, and I don't know personally how he does it. I struggle to watch them all and talk about it and remain competent. So we're about to roll through into a warm-up session, which gives us a short opportunity to have a break, if I'm not mistaken, and then we'll bring you all of the action from race 1. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Jake Maloney continued an amazing run of qualifying form, taking pole position over Kurt Stenberg, who lost second off the start in his own continued run of bad starts.
Terrible start from Kurt Stenberg.
Trans-Tasman Racing's fortunes weren't on the rise as Emily Jones, on her first race back since round 1, lost control while battling with Zach Baker and had to retire. It would only get worse as Scott Nolan crashed into Kurt Stenberg at the front, sending him tumbling down the order. Jake Maloney, however, would come unstuck on the final corner due to a glitch in the track.
Jake Maloney's off! He's gone off!
He wouldn't be the last, but he was certainly the one with the most to lose. Comfort to Kurt Stenberg, who was now a lap down. At the front, Sean Allen for Race on Oz inherited the lead, having an incredible scrap with Zach Baker for the last handful of laps. In the end though, Sean Allen was able to hold off Baker, with his Race on Oz teammate Brody Steen coming home in third in an incredible result for the team championship hopefuls. For race 2, Kurt Stenberg Maloney had decided to start from the back of the grid. However, at the last gasp, Sean Allen pulled out a 53.3 to take the front spot on the grid, surprising the commentators as well as himself.
Sean Allen crosses the line with a 53.31.
When the flag dropped, Kurt again had a bad start, but managed to defend his second position from Zach Baker and quickly put Sean Allen under pressure. Jake Maloney was setting the world on fire from the back of the grid, up 7 spots by the end of lap 6.
I would not be surprised to see him up on the podium at this rate.
Kurt Stenberg fell victim to the last corner glitch, cruelly toppling him from his second position. Jake Maloney would eventually find his way back up to 4th once the pit stop shook out, an incredible feat for someone starting from the back of the grid. This led to a fantastic lap-long side-by-side battle for the last place on the podium, which Corey Preston would eventually lose.
Wow!
Sean Allen would cross the line to make it 2 from 2 at the Perth Super Night, while Zach Baker made it 2 2s from 2, coming home in 2nd. Jake Maloney astoundingly finished in 3rd, while Kurt Stenberg's recovery to 7th allowed him to keep a narrow lead on the Drivers' Championship heading into round 6 at Winton. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world.
We're here in Kota,
Monaco, Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's contact!
Spun out already!
They've had to double stack!
tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil records.
So Usain Bolts of hairpins.
He's missing a rear tyre.
Stairs here. I just wanted to take a quick moment during this broadcast to talk about a young racing driver named Ryan Howe. I was lucky enough to commentate on Ryan's first win in the Victorian State Series at Sandown last year, and also a month later when he clinched the state title in dramatic circumstances at Phillip Island. This was my first time commentating on a real-world racing series, and Ryan was the first driver I got to meet. Only 17 years old at the time, he spoke with a wisdom beyond his years, was incredibly generous with his time, and even let me sit in his race-winning Audi R8 LMS. Fast forward to Perth earlier this month. Ryan was now racing in the Australian GT Championship, supporting the V8s at the Perth Super Night, and in race 1 of the weekend, nabbed his first outright victory off the back of 2 class wins at the Grand Prix in Albert Park. Clearly an outstanding talent in the making. Unfortunately, while leading race 2 of the weekend, with just seconds remaining, a brake rotor failure on Ryan's R8 sent him off at high speed, ruining not just his chances for victory, but also potentially putting his career in motorsport in serious doubt. Within days of a GoFundMe page being set up, fans hoping to get him back on track had donated $4,000, but it's a far cry from the $50,000 Ryan and his father need to get the car back on track. So please, if you can, donate or share this with other motorsport fans so together we can get Ryan Howe back into the winner's circle. Links to the GoFundMe and Speed Cafe articles will be down in the description box below. Now back to the action. Welcome back to round 6 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We've just had qualifying where Jake Maloney has taken pole position for the 20-lap sprint race in around the Winton Raceway. Looking at Stephen Burko at the moment, one of the wildcard entries by virtue of his good result in the Super 2 race earlier in the night, and he's earned himself 2 more races tonight.
Yeah, not sure if that's a blessing or a curse, to be honest. That's quite a lot of time in the cockpit, but regardless, it is good to be moving up in the world. So might find himself promoted if he manages to do well in these races. Timer has just run out for the warm-up session, so we'll be going to the grid any time now with our 20 cars that we have in the session. So should be no issues tonight, knocking on all the wood that I possibly can in terms of lag with that amount of cars. So should be clear sailing, Stairs. I'm looking forward to it.
You and me both. It's been 3 weeks for you and a little bit longer for me. So I'm itching to get racing and have a bit of a chat about who's going to win this race. Do you think anyone can beat Jake Maloney based on what we've just watched?
Based on what we've just watched, no. But similar to the Automobilista Australia V8s that we commentated, our 2 leaders seem to find ways of robbing themselves of certain victory. So I don't want to wrap him up and say that he's going to win it, because
hi to Brenton Hobson. Sorry if you are watching.
Completely unrelated. Hi to our friend Brenton Hobson.
Completely unrelated. Yeah.
No idea why you thought that this was a good opportunity to bring up our good friend Brenton Hobson. Definitely didn't have many technical issues. So I'm hoping that that won't happen for Jake Maloney. If he has a clean race, then I can't see anyone overhauling him. But like I say, he does have form. It's just probably not the form that he would want to be known as.
Now, talking points tonight. Fuel usage is at about 4.5 to 4.6 litres per lap. And these cars have 112 litre tanks. So that means the maximum stint length somewhere in the area of 24 laps. So what that means for this race is that there will be no pit stops.
So no pit stops, so just a straight run, 20 laps, which is just slightly longer than what the Super 2 race was, which was, I believe, 15 laps for the Super 2s. So not only is it 2 more races for the 5 of them that are coming over from Super 2, but it's 2 more races that are both considerably longer than the race that they have done. So be a little bit of adapting for them. But we've got Jake Maloney on the front row of the grid, and I think he was like a solid half a second ahead of second place man Ethan Warren. Doesn't matter. He's the same distance behind him as he would be if it was half a tenth or 4 seconds. He's going to have to get a good start, is Jake Maloney, which he has a history of. Kurt Stenberg down in 4th. Fighting to hang on to his championship lead, less so. He's going to need to nail that start to keep from being swamped by Colin Warwick and Brody Steen behind him, I would expect. Stairs, I will let you run through the grid.
Well, Jake Maloney, as we've just detailed in detail, is the pole sitter. So there he is, taking off from the dummy grid, which, the way they were revving the engines there, I thought that was the actual race start for a moment there. I was panicking that they'd forgotten to put in the formation lap, but not the case. So Ethan Warren starts alongside him in second place. You can see the magenta-coloured mirrors there to denote him to differentiate from the other Altus Esports cars. Sean Allen in third place off the back of 2 victories in Barbagallo. Terrific run of form for this man. Kurt Stenberg in 4th place with the orange number 47, of course, meaning that he is the championship leader. But will he be after tonight? Colin Warwick, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, moving to the Stealth Penrite Racing ZB Commodore. Brody Steen, 6th place, and a good showing there for the 2 Race on Oz guys. Zach Baker leads a Zach Baker Racing 7-8 with his teammate David Nenedick lining up behind him or alongside him on the 4th row of the grid. Adam Zeiting are there in 9th place ahead of Will Devonish. I just love that car. It's a great livery. They've put a lot of effort into that one. His teammate Ozrob actually, incidentally, a few car lengths back in 12th. Split, of course, by Emily Jones for Trans Tasman Racing there. So the first race winner in this series way back in Adelaide. And she's got a lot of work to do tonight. She wants to add to that victory tally. Termo starts out of 13th place, and a good job for one of our wildcard entries. Michael Ford in 14th place in the FFM number 95 Nissan Altima. Cam Rutledge starts behind him in the CRE ZB. Bit of an upgrade for him from the old VF that he used to drive. Stephen Birchall in 16th place. Stephen Burko, another wild card there, ahead of Jay Borg. Thomas McMillan with the back of grid, penalty for jumping out of the qualifying session, and he starts from 19th ahead of Tony, who rounds out our field of 20 as Jake Maloney's overshot his spot on the grid and has had to reverse back, and Ethan Warren also a little bit eager.
Yeah, just a little bit messy there. It's forming up in their starting slots, but it looks like they've got it all figured out now. Looks as if we're getting the lights up. The revs are rising.
They certainly are. You can hear that. 1, 2, 3, go! Jake Maloney looks like he got just ever so slightly the better start. So Ethan Warren actually coming under pressure from Sean Allen down the inside of turn 1. It's a very dangerous turn 1-2 complex. You can get shuffled out wide, and it looks like he's held onto it for now. Kurt Stenberg now with a move up into 3rd place. Great move on Sean Allen down at turn 3, and they're going to go side by side. Can Sean Allen hang it around the outside? No, he just loses out a little bit on the run down to turn 5. They've said here if anyone goes off, there's no rejoining at turn 8. So they'll certainly have that in their minds as they go through this sweeper, and pretty much as they started for the top 5.
Further down the grid, Thomas McMillan up 5 spots already into 14th place. An almighty start there for Thomas McMillan, as there was a bit of tangling there at the back. Ozrob has come out the worst, has been knocked off the track, a bit of a dent in his rear. He's still in 15th, and Steve Birchall off the track, very messy in the back half of the grid. Lots of cars just sort of shuffling all over the place. But out the front, Jake Maloney with a 1.5 lead over Ethan Warren. Another second back to Kurt Stenberg, and Sean Allen coming off worst in that short little battle there with Kurt Stenberg. Kurt Stenberg actually with an incredible start, but just nowhere to go with it, with Ethan Warren having a terrible start and just basically parking it in front of Kurt Stenberg. It sort of he escaped one nightmare only to run into another, Stairs.
Yeah, but Kurt Stenberg, of course, making that great move on Sean Allen down at turn 3, so that's basically what he needs to do to try and protect his championship lead. But Jake Maloney, of course, the man that he doesn't want leading this race, is leading this race. So that points gap is going to get nibbled away if it stays as it is. Will Devonish is out of the race. We didn't see what happened to him. We'll try and catch a replay of that one. He must have had contact on the opening lap because he's decided to box, and that is very, very disappointing for the War Race Engineering driver. So we'll have to get to the bottom of that some way or another, because we're too late to see the replay. And Will Devonish is out of this race. He becomes the first retirement, and he was running up in 10th place, so huge shame.
Yeah, for sure. His teammate Ozrob currently running in 12th place. So as there's some drama in the background. Looks like Steve Birchall and a blue car of, I believe, Termo, running each other off the track. Termo in the Irwin Racing livery there. That is some tight stuff. As they're running side by side, just a little bit of a bump there from Steve Birchall maybe running Termo off the track, but looks like not too much has been lost. Cam Rutledge has managed to sweep through, but apart from that, it's game on again. And at the front, still just not line astern. The other thing, there's a big gap, 2.5 seconds almost between Jake Maloney and Ethan Warren. And that gap back to Kurt Stenberg is staying around the same amount that it was last time we looked. So not running away with it currently is Ethan Warren.
No, not running away with it. Kurt Stenberg with a lot of curb. Stenberg. That was a joke that I was about to pull out of and then thought, no, I've started it now. Anyway, Sean Allen, who he passed on the first lap, isn't really letting him go. He's not putting immediate pressure on him, but he's just hanging there. We'll see if he's got the pace to stay with and put Kurt Stenberg under pressure throughout the duration of this race. That's one we'll put a little bookmark on. Colin Warwick in 5th place is just falling back ever so slightly. Brody Steen in 6th place. They are all just sort of stretching out a little bit. Zach Baker, where he started in 7th place. Adam Zeitinger, the man making a move up ahead of David Nenedick. So David loses a position as a result of Adam moving up a position. Thomas McMillan now up 9 spots, Madbird. That is incredible. So this might be the driver to look at for the next few laps, because he is absolutely on the move. He's already made his way up through half of the grid.
It's similar to Jake Maloney in race 2 back in Perth. Starting from the back of the grid and managing to find his way. Oh no! It's come unstuck. He's hit David Nanedick going through that right-hander there, and it's just I was worried that he was going to take David Nanedick out. Ended up spinning himself out. He's only lost 2 positions. He's still up 7 from his starting position, but just took a little bit too much pace into there and tried to go up the inside.
No.
And just knocked around. How do you call that, Stairs?
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit too late. We might have to see that one again from a different angle, but it looked like a late decision to dive up the inside at turn 4, and, well, you make contact in that position. It's very, very likely that one of you is going around, and unfortunately for Thomas, it was him. He's still up 7 spots on where he started. As you said, he only lost 2 spots, but he's lost an awful lot of ground. Surprising how much field spread there is after only 4 laps, that he had quite large gaps to fit back into. But he'll press on, and and he'll close that ground back up again. But I think that was maybe a little bit too opportunistic of Thomas. We know, though, from previous experience that he does take no prisoners. And, well, we're all the better for it because it's very exciting.
Absolutely it is. Gap at the front now out to 4 seconds. Jake Maloney in a paddock of his own. Meanwhile, behind him, Ethan Warren falling into the clutches of Kurt Stenberg. Only 0.4 of a second between them, and Sean Allen not falling away. Only about... as he has a little bit of a swapper, manages to hold on to it. Only less than a second behind Kurt Stenberg. So this battle for second place is closing up nicely, Stairs. I'm looking forward to this.
It's a big, juicy, tasty treat, isn't it? For us race fans, we want to see a genuine battle at the front. And we're seeing Thomas McMillan actually on our other monitor making positions up, taking risks on the back of, or taking Ozrob there for 11th place. Meanwhile, on your screen at the moment is Ethan Warren in second place, and Kurt Stenberg a few tenths of a second behind him. Just briefly, about half a lap ago, saw Kurt have a little bit of a moment where he lost a little bit of ground to Ethan Warren. Ethan seems to be driving a smoother car at the moment. He's not really attacking those curbs as much as Kurt is. Kurt is all over the curbs, and it seems to be paying him dividends at the moment. It will be maybe telling later on in the race if his tyres are still with him.
Yeah, or if Kurt manages to hit a curb a little bit too heavily, come unstuck perhaps, he might regret it. I feel like Ethan's just sort of driving within himself a little bit, just trying to keep the car on the track, which he's currently in second place. Why not? And it doesn't seem to have anything to answer Jake Maloney with. 4.5 seconds now the gap, and best lap between them. Ethan Warren's best lap is almost 0.6 slower than Jake Maloney's best lap, so just an enormous pace disparity there between those two drivers. Kurt Stenberg is down into fourth. As I was too busy looking at the other monitor, I think he's had a little bit of an... Yep, he's had an off.
Senna McLaughlin
and Sean Allen.
Coulthard.
And Sean Allen has snuck through there for third place. So as I was wrapping him up a little bit, he has had a bit of an unstuck moment and has lost that third position as a result of it. So, and his tyres might be hurting a little bit. Bit of a wiggle there coming out of that corner.
Yeah, I just caught the end of that incident, but I'm assuming it was a little bit of oversteer coming through the sweeper at turn 5. And that's unfortunately undone all the good work that Kurt did at the beginning of the race. He's back where he started, and I wonder if he's just going to struggle now to make it with the sort of pace that he had at the beginning of the race. We're only 7 laps in, 13 to go. Big lock up at turn 1 there, and very deep into turn 1. It compromised his exit of 2. I wonder if Colin's going to get a bit of a sniff here. He's 2 seconds off, but he can see Kurt struggling. There'll be smoke signals as Sean Allen begins to drive away from the championship leader, Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, he's capitalising. He managed to do that both races last week. Capitalised on some unfortunate drivers around him for some decent results. Looks like he's doing that at the moment. He's not falling away from Ethan Warren. As we said earlier, he just seems to be driving within himself a little bit, the Astra Altus Esports driver. Meanwhile, as we're seeing here, Thomas McMillan on an absolute tear. He's managed to pass Emery Jones at Trans-Tasman Racing, who is in her starting position of 11th currently. Thomas back up into that 10th place that he was in before his accident with David Nadedick, who is the next man up the road from him, about 3.5 seconds up the road. So interesting to see how long it takes for him to close that down. In the chat, we just have Mr. Walsh advising us that Will Devonish is out because one of the paddle shifters on his wheel broke mid-race. That is bad luck. I feel like it's probably understating it a bit, but that is just bad luck. As I'm a car actually said, bugger, that is some bad luck.
That is. I wonder if it's the upshift or the downshift. Probably doesn't really matter. Regardless, it's still not exactly what you want happening in the middle of a race. Thank you, Mr. Walshy73, Brian Walsh, for giving us that info, our unofficial man on the ground. So, Thomas McMillan, 10th place, and the next man up the road for him is David Nadedick, about 3 seconds. Next closest battle in this race appears to be between Brody Steiner and Zach Baker. So Zach Baker is putting Brody Steen for Race on Oz under quite a bit of pressure here, and these are two teams who are represented well in the top 10, consistent. Both of their drivers for both teams just collecting points race after race, and that's why these two teams are fighting in good position in the championship. And of course, Race on Oz leading the team's championship as it stands. Won't want to bleed any points here. And Zach Baker outbraking himself. I can hear someone driving through the grass. I just saw it at the back of the shot. Who was that? It looks like... Oh! Is it Emily or is it Kurt? It's one Emily. Of Trans-Tasman Racing drivers. What has happened there? Oh, it's just... it's not a... It's all gone downhill from Adelaide for poor old Emily Jones. So we'll see if we can catch what happened there. It's happened earlier than where I thought it might have.
Oh.
Did she get assistance or did she do it on her own? God, I think she may well have just dipped a wheel on the grass, lost the back end, and that was all she wrote. So, poor old Emily Jones. It doesn't get any better for her.
No, for sure. I was pointing madly and trying not to scream as I was seeing her bounce across the track, but you did catch it, so that's the important thing. I'm just giving you a hard time. But yeah, Emily Jones down into 18th place, which is not where she wants to be. Maybe with
Michael Ford out.
Yeah, Michael Ford out, so that is in fact last. Looks like she might have some damage because that car is behaving not the way I would expect it to. It's sort of sliding a lot, more so than you would expect anyways. So very bad luck for the Trans-Tasman guys. Just can't catch a break these last couple of rounds. As she's coming up to get lapped by Jake Maloney, I believe. She's getting some blue flags, so can't be too far away. No, he's nowhere near. No idea what's going on then. Must have been lapped by someone else. Oh, you know what might have happened is that she could potentially have missed a marshal post with a big drive across the, and she DNFs. Yeah, so I reckon that's what happened. She's missed a marshal post and the game has docked a lap from her. And at that point, there's not really any coming back from that. So it looks as if she's decided to retire from the race. So very bad luck there for Emily Jones. Hope to see her back in race 2 for a better result.
Yes, and I believe that's probably because she did the shortcut that was explicitly said not to do at the beginning of this race meet, and that was to not take the Scott McLaughlin line, which, to reiterate, is if you go off at turn 5, she actually went off considerably before that, but she was still recovering for a number of corners after that. If you go off at turn 5 and rejoin at turn 8, you are going to miss a marshal's post, and you won't get the stewards just letting it go through like Scott McLaughlin did on the weekend. But regardless, it's basically added another name to the list of retirements from this race for us.
Unfortunate.
Oh, Colin.
But meanwhile, Colin Warwick, what's happened to Colin Warwick? He is DNF'd.
And so too Ozrob.
And Ozrob as well. So what's happened here? Have they had a tangle together, or is that just coincidence they both DNF'd at the same time? Everything looking fine as he goes around the corner there, and then just jumps to the... Maybe he had a dropout. Same with Ozrob. Don't see anything in particular happening. Ozrob just driving, and then straight to the pits. Yeah, just nothing in it. So connection drops there for Colin Warwick and Ozrob at the exact same moment by the looks of it. God, let's hope that that's not something to do with the server, because that is all that we need, Stairs.
It may well just be a coincidence that both of them had an issue at exactly the same time. As far as I'm aware, they're both from completely different ends of the country, so I don't think it can be put down to them both living in the same city, and that city having a power outage. Oh, Sackmaker having a big moment there. Held onto it like a star, and he holds on to 6th position as well. So he's got a bit of breathing space either side. 2-second gap. Oh, but never mind about that breathing space. He's just got himself on the grass. He is a flustered man right now. That gap is going to come right down. Adam Zeitinger has closed. Well, he hasn't actually closed as much as I thought with that big mistake from Zach Baker. It's down 3 or 4 tenths of a second. He certainly dropped back from the man he was battling for 5th place, which is Brody Steen. So it gives Brody Steen a bit of comfort. Colin dropped out, according to Imakar in the live chat. So that is certainly a very, very disappointing way to end what was a strong showing for Colin Warwick.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, his admin friend, strange sentence, Kurt Stenberg, is climbing back up onto Sean Allen. He's now within 0.2 of a second. all over the back of the Race on Oz driver. He's coming. He's swiggity-swooty. He's coming for that booty as he's climbing over the back of the Race on Oz car. He's wanting that third position back on that podium as Ethan Warren has chuffed off up the road. 3.5 seconds. They are very close there going through the hairpin, but he's managed to stay out the back of him, which I'm sure he'll be very happy with. Stephen Burko there off the track, looking like he's having a couple of issues, and who can blame him? He's rejoined just ahead of Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg, so hopefully he gets these blue flags and gets out of the way. Doesn't cause any particular dramas. Meanwhile, further down the field, we've got Thomas McMillan onto the back of David Nanadick. We saw what happened the last time these two were tangling, and I thought it was going to happen again. They've managed to keep the cars in a straight line. A little bit of barging there, and David Nanadick braking just a little bit earlier. Thomas McMillan with my heart in my mouth for him at this moment. I hope he's not listening to the stream.
Yeah, David Nanadick driving a very defensive line, the inside of turn 9. He's left the door open here for Thomas McMillan, and Thomas McMillan did not need a second invite. That was a great move. What are you seeing?
No, just David Nanadick had a bit of oversteer there behind Thomas McMillan, but managed to hold on to it. He's just lost about a second.
There you go, and Thomas McMillan chuffs off after Adam Zeiting is about 3 seconds up the road. We'll rejoin that one if and when he does catch up. Meanwhile, the battle for the final spot on the podium between Kurt Stenberg and Sean Allen rages on, with Kurt Stenberg eager to reclaim the position that he lost a few laps ago after having got ahead of Sean Allen off the start, losing it again. And, well, it's a bit of a roller coastery sort of night for Kurt Stenberg thus far.
It absolutely is. He's finding himself in the standings at least, sandwiched between the two Race on Oz cars. Brody Steen about 6 seconds behind him, so it won't be posing a threat, I wouldn't expect. Meanwhile, he's back on the back of Sean Allen again. He's gained over this lap. He's now within 2 seconds, going through the last couple of corners here on the track. He's going to maybe have a go down into the first corner. It is a heavy braking zone. He might have a shot. He's not got a decent run out of that last corner, though. He's going to think better of that, I would expect, and try to have a go somewhere else through the lap. He does carry a lot more speed through there than Sean Allen does. He's barely off the back of that back bumper, but managing to keep out of him at the moment. No contact. A lot of respect between these two drivers so far. Sean Allen goes a little bit wide, but just nowhere that Kurt Stenberg can go with it. So a little bit frustrating here for the Trans-Tasman driver, who's all he can see, I'm sure, is the points deficit he currently has to Jake Maloney, who has, I hesitate to use the word insurmountable, but an insurmountable 6.5 second lead out the front, with Ethan Warren another 5 seconds up the road from third place Sean Allen.
Well, we know that it's certainly not beyond the realms of possibility for Jake Maloney to crash out of the lead, or a little bit of, was that contact, or was that just a bit of oversteer unassisted for Sean Allen? Either way, it's still Sean Allen leading the way down into turn 9. Kurt Stenberg eager to rat-a-tat-tat on the back of that ZB Commodore. Incidentally, Will Devonish fans, if you were following earlier on in the race, he's out of the race with us. An issue with his... I've chosen a bad moment to tell this in an anecdote. Not an anecdote, but anyway, he's out of the race with an issue with his shifter, with his paddle shift, I should say, but he's got his sequential shifter ready for race 2, so he will be returning. Some of the guys in the chat thinking he should be using a sequential shifter anyway with a V8 supercar. Well, if you're going for realism, that may well be the case. What can Kurt Stenberg do about Sean Allen in the remaining 5 laps of this race? He lost out a few laps ago. He's caught back up, so he does have the pace, unless the Race on Oz driver of Sean Allen is just taking it easy. But, well, can he pressure him into a mistake? I think Sean Allen will have a bit of experience from dealing with pressure from last week. Not the same kind of pressure, of course, but there's always the pressure of winning your first races in a series, and he overcame that challenge last round.
Something I've yet to do in Apex Rear Wing. But Sean Allen just doesn't seem to be carrying as much speed through that fast first and second corners as Kurt Stenberg is. Kurt Stenberg had a shocking exit of the last corner on the last lap, but caught it all back up under braking into that first corner. Carries so much more speed, so if he's going to get it done, I think Kurt's going to have to get a good exit off the last corner and have a run down into the first corner as he goes very wide through the penultimate corner. Gets a decent run onto the... Oh, as Sean Allen has a bit of a wiggle, this might be the chance for Kurt Stenberg. He's going for the inside. No, he's not. He's thought better of it. Oh, Cam Rutledge, lapped runner there on the inside of the track, blocking Kurt Stenberg's possible line. That is... I reckon he was going to have a go at that until he saw that car almost stationary on the left-hand side of the track. Just doing what he can to get out of the way. Not Cam Rutledge's fault, but that would be incredibly frustrating for Kurt Stenberg. That is shocking.
Thomas McMillan is up into 7th place.
And we're getting confirmation here that Colin Warwick's internet dropped out, as well as Ozrob. So potentially both of them with the same provider, who had a brief little hiccup or something like that, since they both dropped at the same time. Kurt Stenberg has lost a bit of time on this lap. He outbroke himself going up the back of Sean Allen, managed to avoid contact, but has lost some time as a result of it. So is now almost 6/10 behind him. Get to see here if he does actually have a lot more pace in that first corner. I have a feeling he's going to catch that all back up under braking, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Roadies Racing, as you said, Stairs, saying that it should have been using a sequential from the outset. Well, you know,
That's what I was referencing.
yeah, I did reference that you referenced it. So just to run around in circles a little bit more. Kurt Stenberg here running along the back of Sean Allen. Will he gain time in this first corner? It looks like he has. No, he hasn't. Never mind. Yes, he has. He's down to 0.4 of a second through that first chicane. I guess you could call it a chicane. He's managing to close up there through the third corner as well. Fourth corner, not so much, but he's still there. He's only got four laps to make this work, Stairs. He's got to get a move on.
Yeah, just looking at the lap times there, they've got a very similar fastest lap to Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg, 22.1, and Ethan Warren marginally slower, but I guess more consistent over the course of the race. Jake Maloney in an absolute class of his own, the only man to set a 21, and his fastest lap at 21.6, 0.5 of a second faster than anyone else in this race.
Absolutely incredible. That man, I don't know how he's not leading the championship already. He will be after this race. We'll have to see where he is at the end of the night. I certainly hope I haven't given him the commentator's curse by saying that. Sean Allen, with a terrible couple of corners there, has given Kurt Stenberg a sniff, and that's all Kurt Stenberg needs is a good sniff as he's going through the penultimate corner. Goes very wide. He takes a bit of grass there on the penultimate corner into the last corner, but he's just not close enough. I don't think he's going to have a run.
Got to be careful taking a bit of grass. If you do that into Singapore, you get the death penalty, I hear. But Sean Allen, oh, that's a lot of closing speed there for Kurt Stenberg. He loses out on turn 2 because of how deep he went in turn 1. There's a yellow flag there just on the run up to turn 3, and I believe that's Stephen Burko, who we've seen actually off the road a number of times. We're going to see him in your shot just in, there he is. He's missing his rear wing, so that may well explain some of the difficulties that he is having with the control of his vehicle.
To put it lightly. Kurt Stenberg, I think, might be hurting on tyres a bit. He just seems to be very squirrely under brakes, whereas Sean Allen's quite planted. So definitely won't be helping him in his quest to take that third podium position, but he has gained through this lap. He's now just under 0.3 of a second behind Sean Allen. This gap hasn't really changed that much for the last probably 5 or 6 laps. So Sean Allen doing very well to cope with this pressure. He hasn't really put a foot wrong. Had a couple of messy corner exits, but nothing that would let Kurt Stenberg up alongside him into the penultimate corner here. Kurt Stenberg again going very wide, not that wide that time, managing to take a little bit of grass. Good run through the last corner. He is under 0.3 of a second behind Sean Allen. This might be his chance. Not too much of a slipstream down into the first corner. It's just not long enough to get it done. As he goes through the first chicane, hopes to get a better run out of it than Sean Allen. Go for the inside in turn 3, but just, again, not close enough to do it. That I think is where he's going to get it done. That's where he got it done on lap 1. But Sean Allen just with enough pace to hold him at bay at the moment. Oh, as he goes very deep. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's put paid to Kurt Stenberg's hopes for the immediate future, although there is some lap traffic coming up for Sean Allen to negotiate, so that may well be a bit of a joker in the pack for Kurt Stenberg as he tries to claw back the time that he lost through turn 5. But just riding on board with Kurt Stenberg on our other monitor, I've been watching him for the last lap or so. He's been absolutely attacking those curbs, really trying to get the better exit. Sean Allen isn't doing that, maybe keeping his tyres in a little bit better shape, but nonetheless, he's still able to stay clear of Kurt Stenberg. Stenberg can't get a run that allows him to gain the time on Sean Allen, and that's why he's never been anywhere near close enough to make a move into any of the braking zones. About to start the final lap of the race, and these guys are about 15 seconds behind our race leader, who's coming through turn 4, I believe that is, and he's only got about 2 sectors remaining to complete what has been an absolutely dominant performance in this race for Jake Maloney in the TTL Esports ZB Commodore. I've just noticed that's a ZB Commodore. It was a Falcon last time I was commentating in this championship, so I probably should have checked that prior, but there you go. Another win for the Holden fans.
Absolutely. Yeah, just completely faultless, Jake Maloney, with now a better part of 10-second lead over second place man Ethan Warren, who himself hasn't really put a foot wrong. He's just he was a little bit sedate in the earlier part of the race, didn't really match Jake Maloney on pace, but going fast enough to keep Kurt Stenberg from getting anywhere near him. Kurt Stenberg, as we say that, is up alongside Sean Allen in the last sector. He's going to have to go around the outside. That's not going to work, but he might get a better run. Oh, as he gets a swapper on, Jake Maloney's crossing the line to take the win here at Winton for the first race. Ethan Warren with a little bit of a slide through the last corner. Again, very, very solid race there for Ethan Warren, taking second place. Sean Allen, I think, is going to hang on to that third position. Kurt Stenberg just does not have the run. That is a damn shame for Kurt Stenberg, but not for Sean Allen, who holds on to that third position. Very good and fantastic finish for the Race on Oz team in general, as Brody Steen takes home 5th place. Solid finishes there. Zach Baker in 6th. Thomas McMillan up 12 spots from his starting position in 19th. And Adam Zeitinger in the Astro Altus Esports coming around the last corner there to come home in 8th in his Mustang. And in 9th position, David Nanadick, the other Zach Baker racing car. So both Zach Baker racing cars well represented in the top 10. Jay Borg finishing out the top 10 in the Stealth Penrite racing car, carrying the flag for his departed teammate Colin Warwick. Make it sound like he's dead, but he had a internet dropout. Unfortunately, he was looking like he was going to have a solid finish, so at least Jay Borg spanked some solid points there. Stephen Birchall in the green and black monster Mustang racing car coming home in 11th place. Solid race there for Stephen Birchall, up 5 places, which coincidentally is the same amount of people that we've had DNF. Termo in 12th place, up 1 from his start, which is decent from a Super 2 driver up into the big leagues. Tony in 13th, up 7th places. He started at the back of the grid, so very good there from Tony. Very well done indeed. Cam Rutledge in 14th. Steve Burko coming home in 15th place, our last driver on track.
And he got a new wing as well. So we saw what appeared to be a missing rear wing from one of the onboards of the other car that went past him, and it appears he's got that fixed. And he'll get some decent points for that, even as a wild card entered in this race. And that's everyone in this race. As we mentioned before, the 5 DNFers were Colin Warwick and Osro, both with connection issues. Emily Jones having a bit of an excursion onto the grass and subsequently dropping a lap because she rejoined at turn 8. Michael Ford, I believe we caught what happened to him actually, and neither will Devonish. So those are the results for race 1. That was it wasn't really a race for first place, but there was still plenty of stuff going on for me personally to enjoy in that race. The Kurt Stenberg saga continued throughout. I wouldn't say saga, it was actually quite a solid race. It's just unfortunate for him. He had that little mistake which cost him the third place that he so brilliantly got at the beginning of the race, and Sean Allen just drove a great race to hold on to that till the end.
Definitely, it was almost a race for the first place in the championship. Kurt Stenberg still with the lead, ever so close. 12.33 points. Kurt Stenberg currently on 12.06 points. Jake Maloney on after that first position finish. So another win like that, and Jake Maloney is going to overhaul that championship lead. Kurt Stenberg would be sweating a little bit, I believe, in his helmet right now.
Certainly would. So we look forward to seeing how race 2 affects that as Madbird furiously calculates the points. That gives us a little bit of time for a short break. On the other side, we'll bring you qualifying for race 2. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Jake Maloney continued an amazing run of qualifying form, taking pole position over Kurt Stenberg, who lost second off the start in his own continued run of bad starts.
Terrible start from Kurt Stenberg.
Trans-Tasman Racing's fortunes weren't on the rise as Emily Jones, on her first race back since round 1, lost control while battling with Zach Baker and had to retire. It would only get worse as Scott Nolan crashed into Kurt Stenberg at the front, sending him tumbling down the order. Jake Maloney, however, would come unstuck on the final corner due to a glitch in the track.
Jake Maloney's off. He's gone off.
He wouldn't be the last, but he was certainly the one with the most to lose. Comfort to Kurt Stenberg, who was now a lap down. At the front, Sean Allen for Race on Oz inherited the lead, having an incredible scrap with Zach Baker for the last handful of laps. In the end though, Sean Allen was able to hold off Baker, with his Race on Oz teammate Brody Steen coming home in third in an incredible result for the team championship hopefuls. For race 2, Kurt Stenberg was odds-on favourite for pole after Jake Maloney had decided to start from the back of the grid. However, at the last gasp, Sean Allen pulled out a 53.3 to take the front spot on the grid, surprising the commentators as well as himself.
Sean Allen crosses the line with a 53.31.
When the flag dropped, Kurt again had a bad start, but managed to defend his second position from Zach Baker and quickly put Sean Allen under pressure. Jake Maloney was setting the world on fire from the back of the grid, up 7 spots by the end of lap 6.
I would not be surprised to see him up on the podium at this rate.
Kurt Stenberg fell victim to the last corner glitch, cruelly toppling him from his second position. Jake Maloney would eventually find his way back up to 4th once the pit stop shook out, an incredible feat for someone starting from the back of the grid. This led to a fantastic lap-long side-by-side battle for the last place on the podium, which Corey Preston would eventually lose.
Wow!
Sean Allen would cross the line to make it 2 from 2 at the Perth Super Night, while Zach Baker made it 2 2s from 2, coming home in second. Jake Maloney astoundingly finished in third, while Kurt Stenberg's recovery to 7th allowed him to keep a narrow lead on the Drivers' Championship heading into round 6 at Winton. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. We're here in Kota, Monaco, Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's contact.
Spun out already.
They've had to double stack.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil records.
So Usain Bolts of hairpins.
It's missing a rear tyre.
Stairs here. I just wanted to take a quick moment during this broadcast to talk about a young racing driver named Ryan Howe. I was lucky enough to commentate on Ryan's first win in the Victorian State Series at Sandown last year, and also a month later when he clinched the state title in dramatic circumstances at Phillip Island. This was my first time commentating on a real-world racing series, and Ryan was the first driver I got to meet. Only 17 years old at the time, he spoke with a wisdom beyond his years, was incredibly generous with his time, and even let me sit in his race-winning Audi R8 LMS. Fast forward to Perth earlier this month. Ryan was now racing in the Australian GT Championship, supporting the V8s at the Perth Super Night, and in race 1 of the weekend, nabbed his first outright victory off the back of 2 class wins at the Grand Prix in Albert Park. Clearly an outstanding talent in the making. Unfortunately, while leading race 2 of the weekend, with just seconds remaining, a brake rotor failure on Ryan's R8 sent him off at high speed, ruining not just his chances for victory, but also potentially putting his career in motorsport in serious doubt. Within days of a GoFundMe page being set up, fans hoping to get him back on track had donated $4,000, but it's a far cry from the $50,000 Ryan and his father need to get the car back on track. So please, if you can, donate or share this with other motorsport fans so together we can get Ryan Howe back into the winner's circle. Links to the GoFundMe and Speed Cafe articles will be down in the description box below. Now back to the action. Welcome back to the Winton SuperSprint. This is round 6 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Next round, incidentally, according to the graphic on your screen, well, not according to, that is it's very much the case, will be taking place at Darwin. That'll be the Hidden Valley Darwin Triple Crown. Can't wait for that one. But before that, we've got qualifying 2 and we've got race 2. My name's Stairs. I'm joined in commentary tonight by Madbird, and we've just watched Jake Maloney absolutely dominate race 1 from pole to the finish. Led every lap and set the fastest lap by some 0.5 of a second. Dominant performance for Jake Maloney.
What do they call that? The Grand Slam? When you lead every lap, fastest lap, and win the race. Fantastic.
It's the Salt Bay I was doing. You obviously didn't get that.
No, I didn't. I was wondering what the fuck you were doing. Fantastic, faultless race from Jake Maloney, I think is the best word for it. Kurt Stenberg still with a narrow championship lead. God, I hate V8 Supercars points. He's really doesn't deserve it. That's harsh,
that's not true. I mean, like, sorry, I did cut across your point, but
no, that's absolutely
for those
fine.
playing at home, you don't particularly love this point system, but you probably should explain why.
It doesn't. There's no apart from winning a race being a thing. There's no real reason to fight for a better position if you're in the top, 2-3 cars, because you're gonna get like a metric arseload of points regardless of if you finish in first or if you finish in fourth. So why take the risk to get up into third if you're in fourth, considering that you're probably only going to get 10-15 points less than you would if you did finish in third. It doesn't inspire interesting racing, I don't find, but in terms of the points anyway. But of course it is one of the more action-packed racing series there is. So I could potentially be talking out my ass. I just don't like the point system, Stairs. That's the takeaway from this.
There you go. Well, I'd certainly take your points. Take your points. The bet easy dough entrepreneur, very good. But the point you make, of course, about it not inspiring terrific racing actually doesn't necessarily hold true based on what we see, because people are always fighting for a win here. So I think maybe the points are not necessarily in the back of their mind when they're taking all of the risks that they do when they go for wins. So I think it's because they're probably not really thinking about the points so much that we still get great racing in this championship. But it certainly is very, very harsh on the DNFs when they do happen, because a sure win of 150 points can turn into 0 points so quickly when there is a retirement, and that is much, much more costly than, say, coming 5th. But the other thing that I just want to quickly add on to that is that we do have drop rounds in this championship. So if there are drivers who lose points through attrition, or they may not be able to make a round, then they can actually drop their worst result of the championship.
On the subject of DNFs, Jake Maloney, of course, with 2 DNFs, one in Melbourne and one in Phillip Island, both in major feature races, so the big boys. So that would probably be something he's ruining at this point in the championship. Regardless, it's all academic at this point as we are back into qualifying for race 2. Scramble to get out onto the track first. Looks as if Thomas McMillan has done it, something he usually does, and I'm glad he's going to be qualifying this time, not starting from the rear of the grid.
Well, absolutely right. That adds another element to this race. Thomas McMillan started from the back of the grid in race 1, and Made his way up into 7th. Could possibly have been more if not for a bit of a spin trying to overtake David Nenadic, I believe it was, down at turn 4, and lost an awful lot of time there that he then had to recover. Could have been up as high as maybe 5th without that, or more perhaps. So Thomas McMillan starting tonight potentially in race 2 in a position more true to his pace. Well, what can he do?
Absolutely. Lewis Kugali in the live chat thinks he can do a podium. He's putting $10 on it for Thomas to podium this race. I'll take that bet, Lewis. I don't think Thomas will podium this race. So you are on, my friend, and we will exchange PayPal details if I indeed win. If we don't, then I might not ever speak to you. But regardless, Thomas McMillan here starting his first flying lap, and probably his first proper lap in anger in a qualifying session tonight. He dropped out very early in the first one, might not have even made the start of the qualifying session, so he does have some blistering pace. Obviously, 12 positions, his what's the opposite of a deficit in race 1? Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's, like, what is the opposite of a deficit? Someone Google that. Anyway, his gains in race 1, 12 positions, good lap time so far, 28.6 in the first sector.
I wish I had some sort of witty remark to respond to that question, what is the opposite of a deficit? But alas, I've come up blank. Only 17 drivers currently in the session, and if those remaining 3 do want to partake in the race, they will have to wait till the end of qualifying, and they will be starting at the back of the grid. So a little bit of disappointing grid potentially for race 2. Hopefully, though, those drivers do return for race 2. And of course, we've got the other element, which is pit stops, that may well prove the deciding factor in this race, in this feature race of the Winton Supersprint.
Abundance, adequacy, advantage, enough, perfection, plenty, satisfaction, success, sufficiency, excess, and superfluousness. Just some of the antonyms for the word deficiency.
Well, from someone who couldn't think of the opposite at all a moment ago, you've come up with quite a lot, clearly off the top of your head.
Absolutely, entirely off the top of my head. Dictionary.com had no part in that. Ethan Warren with the fastest lap of the qualifying session so far, with a 1:22.4. That's about 5/6 tenths far. Oh, sorry, no, that's about 1.6 seconds slower than the lap time that Jake Maloney managed in the first qualifying session. He managed to break into the 120s, so would expect that to tumble. Thomas McMillan currently running second fastest, Kurt Stenberg in third, but Jake Maloney yet to set a lap time. He is out there, but hasn't set a lap time yet. His sector times are nothing to write home about so far, unless he's going to set it alight in the last sector, and he doesn't, finds himself in 7th place with a 1:23.6, so definitely not at his pace. That may be just a little bit of a sighter there for Jake Maloney, as we see Ethan Warren with a decent second sector. He's 4 tenths up on his best time, so this is going to be a blistering lap time to behold, I would imagine. He's currently a 1:22.4. I'm going to guess that's going to drop under the 1:22s into the 1:21s of some description.
Yeah, a decent middle sector, and the Mona Lisa is not a bad bit of kit. Ethan Warren, that's pretty much exactly the margin it was at the second sector. The final sector was pretty much bang on the money there for Ethan Warren, and he jumps nearly down into the 21s. We know Jake Maloney can go quicker, but he has yet to do so. Looks like he has jumped up into 7th place, so not necessarily a representative time from Jake Maloney, as Adam Zeitinger jumps up ahead of him into 7th place. And just 4 cars, beg your pardon, 5 cars. I'm just seeing the little graphics on the live timing in the pits. And as I said, that one of those cars has come out into the pit lane to start their outlap, and it is now 4. But then, as I said that, a few more people came back into the pits. And the guy setting the timing alight is Jake Maloney. There he goes, to the top of the timesheets with the first 21 of the session, and goes clear of Ethan Warren by 1/10 of a second.
Definitely got more in it, has Jake Maloney. he can put it down in the 120s, I'm expecting. As I'm watching that mouse move around as you're trying to place your beer and bumping the mouse. So a pause for my beer soz. Thomas McMillan currently running in third still. Not insane lap times at the moment, but still fast enough for third, which is definitely something. 122.5, his fastest. Zach Baker up in fourth and Sean Allen in fifth. So the Race on Oz and Zach Baker Racing teams showing an excellent turn of form. As Sean, I'm not sure if that was an intentional entrance to the pit lane or if he just thought to make the best of a bad situation. That was up on two wheels. That was Stairs shouting and excited noises. But regardless, still in fifth place there for Sean Allen. Kurt Stenberg in sixth, all to do.
It was the most exciting entry to the pits since I accidentally stabbed myself with my deodorant can. Someone else off there. Who's that? Maybe they're... Oh, Jake Maloney back in. Steve Burko taking to the grass. So it's been quite an eventful race one for him. And he doesn't improve.
I reckon Kurt Stenberg's warming up for a hot one. He's currently working his way down the straight towards the penultimate corner. Braking and accelerating, getting those brakes and tyres up to temperature. And he's off. He shoots into that penultimate corner, takes that wide line of his, little bit of grass, and then into the last corner very fast, puts his headlights on. Get out of my way, he says. I'm on a fast one. Across the start-finish line to begin his lap. What can he do to overhaul this deficit he currently has with an abundancy of lap time? Currently in sixth, the 122.8. As he, a little bit hairy, he's managed to hold on to it. He's a full second almost short of Jake Maloney, so he's definitely got some time to make up. Coming up to the first sector split here, get to see if he's made any inroads. I imagine he would. This looks like a pretty good lap so far. A little bit scary there for Stairs at one point. He is faster by half a second on his personal best, so already looking good. He a little bit of a lock up there into the hairpin, but manages to hit the apex still. Doesn't seem to lose too much time around this twisty section of track where, as you said in race one, you never seem to stop turning. The wheel is straight only for that split second in between turning left and turning right. A little bit of a back end out there coming out of that corner down towards the last sector of the track. Going around that penultimate corner, he's just over a tenth down on Jake Maloney's time through that second sector, but he is still half a second faster. Looks as if he might... It's going to be close between him and Ethan Warren. Ethan Warren only a tenth down on Jake Maloney. Kurt Stenberg with a good run through that last corner, gets on the throttle early, slams down the start-finish straight, and he comes across the line in second. Oh, just barely behind Jake Maloney. That is less than a tenth. That's less than half a tenth, Stairs.
He lost time in that middle sector, and as that was happening, Colin Warwick jumped up into what was fourth place ahead of him. But, wow, he really pulled his finger out in the final sector there, and I didn't think it was going to be that close. As you said, it's looking like he was going to be... Thomas McMillan has jumped up ahead of both of them.
Holy shit.
As we're looking at Jake Maloney, who's looking like he's going to return serve as well. So Thomas McMillan with a 21.7. Jake Maloney is currently on a lap. That will beat that 21.5 from Ethan Warren. So... Well, Kurt Stenberg was second a moment ago. He's been shuffled back to fourth because Ethan Warren and Thomas McMillan have both jumped ahead of both of them. It's all happening so quickly, and Jake Maloney is on a hot pace as well. So these are very, very frantic moments because you take your eye off of the timing screen for a split second and it all changes. So Kurt Stenberg did a great lap to improve his position, but he's nearly down as far as he was when he started that lap. So... if you're standing still in supercars, you are going backwards. Jake Maloney, what can he do? Slides it round the final corner. Perfect car control to the line. Is it going to be good enough to topple Ethan Warren? It is! By 0.2 of a second. A 21.3 for Jake Maloney. What a lap.
Absolutely insane. Ethan Warren is on a hot one, I think. Not sure if he's going to improve. He is currently a tenth up on Jake Maloney's time through the second sector. So this, if he manages to hold on to this, he is going to take that pole position away from Jake Maloney. Thomas McMillan has bailed out on his lap. He won't be doing another fast one. So currently only Ethan Warren, I would expect, be able to overhaul this lead of Jake Maloney. Good run through the last corner. Gets a dip on the grass a tiny bit. Across the line he goes, and he manages to not finish. 0.02 of a second between Ethan Warren and Jake Maloney at the front. That is absolutely incredible. That tiny dip of the tire on that last corner might have been the difference. Just that little bit of traction he lost. Oh my goodness, Stairs.
By 0.02 of a second, Jake Maloney nabs his second pole position of the night. Ethan Warren wondering what he has to do. That was an absolutely stellar lap, but it wasn't enough to topple the almighty TTL Esports Jake Maloney. And Thomas McMillan starting out of third place. That bet for a podium for Thomas McMillan is not looking very good from your point of view. Looking pretty good for Lewis Kugeley to win $10. That's all he's put on it. I don't know what the odds are going to be.
He never actually confirmed that the bet was on, so if this doesn't go my way, then I'll be taking that to the tribunal. Jake Maloney just an outstanding lap, and Ethan Warren, my goodness, I can't believe how close that was. I thought Kurt Stenberg had done a belter when he was just a shy of about 2.5 hundredths, I think he was, behind Jake Maloney. And look at him now down in fourth position where he started the first race. That is a... Hello? Yes? You're rubbing your wrist.
No, what I'm doing is I'm putting my finger where I'm about to put my words, out on a limb.
Oh.
That was the best qualifying session that we've had all series long. That was fantastic.
That was a long bow to draw. I thought you were trying to do your pulse was racing or something, but you're just rubbing your arm out on a limb. My ass. Lewis Kugeley, bet is on, hey. All right, yep, you're on. $10 if Thomas McMillan manages to finish on that third position. I just don't see it happening. He's going to drop out of the top three. I'm calling it now. Kurt Stenberg, what can he do from fourth position? Hopefully get a better start than he did in the first race. Although, no, never mind. I'm talking out my rear parts. Kurt Stenberg had a fantastic start. Ethan Warren ahead of him had a terrible start and meant that Kurt Stenberg could go nowhere with it. So hopefully, for Kurt Stenberg's sake, Ethan gets a decent start and Kurt Stenberg can hop Thomas McMillan in the race start. Or ideally, all three of them crash and Kurt Stenberg just drives on through.
I guess you're forgiven for accidentally calling a bad start there for Kurt Stenberg, because he was on a bit of a streak of bad starts, and it's unfortunate actually for him that the time that he gets a good start, there's nowhere to go with it because we're at Winton. He probably would have loved to have those two starts at Barbagallo where he lost positions off the start.
Yeah, for sure. He just had just bogged down both starts at Perth and didn't go anywhere, which is not ideally what you want to do on a race start. But as you say, he did get a decent start then and just nowhere to go with it. Ethan Warren with a shocking start, bogged down off the line. So Kurt Stenberg hopefully gets an equally good start in better circumstances for race 2.
Short warm-up session. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll be back with race 2 from round 6 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Jake Maloney continued an amazing run of qualifying form, taking pole position over Kurt Stenberg, who lost second off the start in his own continued run of bad starts.
Terrible start from Kurt Stenberg.
Trans-Tasman Racing's fortunes weren't on the rise as Emily Jones, on her first race back since round 1, lost control while battling with Zach Baker and had to retire. It would only get worse as Scott Nolan crashed into Kurt Stenberg at the front, sending him tumbling down the order. Jake Maloney, however, would come unstuck on the final corner due to a glitch in the track.
Jake Maloney's off! He's gone off!
He wouldn't be the last, but he was certainly the one with the most to lose. Comfort to Kurt Stenberg, who was now a lap down. At the front, Sean Allen for Race on Oz inherited the lead, having an incredible scrap with Zach Baker for the last handful of laps. In the end though, Sean Allen was able to hold off Baker with his Race on Oz teammate Brody Steen coming home in third in an incredible result for the team championship hopefuls. For race 2, Kurt Stenberg was odds-on favourite for pole after Jake Maloney had decided to start from the back of the grid. However, at the last gasp, Sean Allen pulled out a 53.3 to take the front spot on the grid, surprising the commentators as well as himself.
Sean Allen crosses the line with a 53.31.
When the flag dropped, Kurt again had a bad start, but managed to defend his second position from Zach Baker and quickly put Sean Allen under pressure. Jake Maloney was setting the world on fire from the back of the grid, up 7 spots by the end of lap 6.
I would not be surprised to see him up on the podium at this rate.
Kurt Stenberg fell victim to the last corner glitch, cruelly toppling him from his second position. Jake Maloney would eventually find his way back up to 4th once the pit stop shook out, an incredible feat for someone starting from the back of the grid. This led to a fantastic lap-long side-by-side battle for the last place on the podium, which Corey Preston would eventually lose.
Wow!
Sean Allen would cross the line to make it 2 from 2 at the Perth Super Night, while Zach Baker made it 2 2s from 2, coming home in second. Jake Maloney astoundingly finished in third, while Kurt Stenberg's recovery to 7th allowed him to keep a narrow lead on the Drivers' Championship heading into round 6 at Winton. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. We're here in Kota, Monaco, Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's contact.
Spun out already.
They've had the double stack.
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil records.
So Usain Bolts of hairpins.
He's missing a rear tyre.
Welcome back to Winton Motor Raceway for round 6 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. Just 50 seconds away from the end of the warm-up session, where we're going to roll through into race 2 and the extra element of pit stops becomes relevant.
Absolutely. Longer one. I don't know where I was going with that. It is indeed a longer race than the first one. That is fact. Jake Maloney, it is also fact, is starting from pole from the second time in these 2 rounds. Sorry, in these 2 races. Ethan Warren, I don't even know what to call that. 0.02 of a second. That is, I feel like a bee's dick would be at least, you know, at 100th.
An insecure bee's dick.
An insecure bee's dick worth of space between Ethan Warren and Jake Maloney. Much like Jerry Seinfeld in the movie B Movie. That is an insecure bee's dick.
Speaking of Seinfeld, maybe it had gone swimming and it had some bees shrinkage.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Do women get shrinkage? You mean like laundry? Kurt Stenberg,
Marvelous.
starting from 4th place. Behind Thomas McMillan, who I've got money on not to finish in the podium, so I'm sweating a little bit at the moment. Kurt Stenberg finishing 4th in the first race, narrow lead in the championship at the moment. Whether he hangs on to that at the end of this race remains to be seen, Stairs. What are you expecting to happen, Stairs? Do you reckon Jake Maloney's going to carry this one out, or has Ethan Warren found a turn of pace?
Well, it does look like he stepped up his game from race 1 qualifying, but he just didn't seem too comfortable with that sort of pace throughout. Jake Maloney had 0.5 of a second on him in race 1, and it's hard to see Ethan being able to live with Jake's pace through the course of this 34-lap race. But time will tell. Records are made to be broken. Not that that's a record or anything like that. But anyway, Jake Maloney, the only thing maybe that could stop him from my point of view is the pit stops. But I haven't seen him make too many errors in that regard in recent times. Most of the errors we've seen have been, frankly, bad luck, like the things that occurred in Barbagallo. So a 34-lap race, that's 102 kilometres around this clockwise 3-kilometre circuit. Now, the fuel usage, as we mentioned before, gets you about 24 laps to a stint. So that's at a times 2. And that means that you'll have a pit window somewhere between laps I think it was 12 and 23. think that graphic said 10 and 23. That's probably more accurate. My script is the one that's inaccurate. Yeah, so calculate backwards 24 laps from 34, and that gets you to lap 10. So that's the earliest you can pit and make it back to the end of the race, and then on the other side of the coin, you should, including this warm-up lap, be able to make it 23 laps into the race on a full tack. Madbird, the grid.
Thank you very much, Stairs. Jake Maloney leads us off with a almighty qualifying lap. Ethan Warren right behind him. Solid second place finish in the first race. Does he have higher aspirations for this one? Thomas McMillan started from the back of race 1, ended up in 12th. Ended up in 7th, gained 12 positions during that race. What can he do starting from 3rd? There aren't 12 positions in front of him. Kurt Stenberg in 4th position again for second race in a row. Can he make a few positions off the start? Can he take the fight to his championship rival, or will he be relegated to the second, #relegated to the second position in the championship by the end of this race? Sean Allen, 5th place at the moment. Can he get some decent results? He already has the last few races. 2 wins last round. Colin Warwick with an unfortunate internet dropout in the first race. Be spoiling for a fight in this one as he is sandwiched by the 2 Race on Oz guys. Brody Steen behind him in 7th place. Zach Baker, the first of the Zach Baker racing cars, followed by Adam Zeitinger. Solid result in the first race. David Nanadick just sneaking into the top 10 to keep Zach Baker up and in it, the racing team that is. Will Devonish with the sequential shifter now for the War Race Engineering car in 11th. Termo in 12th from Super 2. Jay Borg in 13th. Out of position there in front of Stephen Birchall in the Monster Mustang Racing car. Starting from 14th. Ozrob in 15th. Again, another unfortunate dropout in that first race. And Steve Burko for Orcon Racing starting in 16th. And Tony looks like he hasn't gotten out to the grid, so he is starting from the pit lane. He'll have to start a sector behind everybody else. So decent result in the first race for Tony. Ended up ahead, up 5 positions from his start. So, or even more than that, I think. So might be able to get something done from the pit lane.
And watch out for that. You cannot exit the pit lane until that light goes green. So Steve Burko will have to be paying attention to that. It will disqualify you if you break that particular rule. There's no ifs or buts about that with Automobilista. So, the race 2 is about to get underway. The revs are rising, the lights are on, and the cars are about to go. Jake Maloney with another pretty good start. Ethan Warren, is he going to be under pressure here from the fast starting Thomas McMillan? Thomas McMillan down the outside, inside of turn 1. It'll become the outside of turn 2. Biff and Budge. Jake Maloney gets away. A few car lengths now. Kurt Stenberg, can he pull the same move that he did in race 1? No, he stays behind. It's Thomas McMillan behind him instead of Sean Allen, who incidentally has lost a place to the Penrite car of Colin Warwick. So Colin Warwick, good start there.
Brody Steen losing 2 positions off the start down into 9th position. That's given David Nanadick and Zach Baker of Zach Baker Racing 7th and 8th at the moment. So very good there for the Zach Baker guys over the Race Honours racing team. Sean Allen losing out as well to Colin Warwick, as you did say. Further down the grid, we have Termo losing a couple of positions off the line. Tony has started his race down in 17th place, so he's got it all to do. Meanwhile, at the front, 7/10ths Jake Maloney's gap to Ethan Warren, so he hasn't sprinted away as he did in the first lap of the first race. Ethan Warren keeping him honest at this point, keeping within touching distance. So hopefully Ethan Warren can make this a bit of a scrap rather than the Usain Bolt of just disappearing into the distance that was the first race for Jake Maloney.
Well, 1 lap down, 33 to go. Didn't know why I said it like that, but anyway, that's what has happened. Ethan Warren in 2nd place is looking like he's more the man to try and put Jake Maloney under pressure than anyone else. He's stretching away from Thomas McMillan, who has been the subject of a bet between our illustrious co-commentator Madbird and Lewis Kugley in the live chat. Those two squabbling over the potential finishing position of Thomas McMillan. Will it be on the podium or not? Lewis thinks yes. Madbird thinks no. He's got an angry pack behind him who want to take that podium off him, not least of which is championship leader Kurt Stenberg, who spent the predominant majority of the first race trying to talk Sean Allen out of a podium position.
Yeah, he couldn't quite convince him. So maybe he's put a few points into charisma between race 1 and 2. He's gonna try to roll a nat 20. That's joke is gonna fall flat.
I thought you were talking about Sims. You just talk in the mirror for a little bit and you get more charisma.
Yeah, you practice that speech and, make some friends. I never understood why, you needed to make friends to get a promotion in that game. Like, really. Like,
it's networking.
Yeah, but you could network with a child and it still counts. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's not a particularly realistic life simulator.
Moving on.
Moving on. What have we got? So we have there was a large amount of dust. Not sure who that was. Looks as if Ozrob is, he's spun it. He is sitting on the grass. He is not moving. Not sure what happened there. It's like just all by himself. Just pulled off.
Probably more to that story. We don't know.
Wait, and it seems like we've got some decent pit reporters in the live chat, so maybe somebody will be able to clue us in on what happened there. That gap between Jake Maloney and Ethan Warren not falling particularly quickly. It's still under a second there between the Astro Altus Esports driver and the TTL Esports ZB Commodore. Thomas McMillan keeping within touching distance as well as Kurt Stenberg. Colin Warwick with a watching brief. Sean Allen. I'm just going through the grid at this stage because, my goodness, these guys are pretty close on track. It's a bit of a procession. Wanting to see, where is there a close battle anywhere on track? Oh, Ozrob has actually DNF'd, so that is a damn shame there for War Race Engineering. Bad couple of races for them. Very close here between David Nenadick and I believe that's Brody Steen. Trying to make up for his shocking start, down to 9th from 7th on the grid. David Nenadick not wanting to give up that position. Race on Oz having a good tussle with Zach Baker Racing the last few races.
So Brody Steen is all over the back of David Nenadick at the moment. Nenadick or Nenaditch? Probably should ask him. If you're watching this back, David Nenadick / Nenaditch, please do tell us how you prefer your name to be pronounced, because it's not something that we aim to do, is mispronounce people's names on purpose.
Absolutely not, Alistair. Perhaps it's hyphenated. Perhaps it's David Nadick.
So why isn't there hyphens on his name?
Well, maybe. I mean, there's no capitals either, so I don't think we can accuse him of being particularly grammatically correct.
Unintended sponsorship there.
It's still Grammarly if you want to, watch some annoying YouTube ads about writing resumes, making your life better or something ridiculous. Thomas McMillan just closing in on Ethan Warren, I think, a little bit. It's under a second now. About 0.8 of a second, that is. Just not gaining any huge strides out the front, any of them. It looks as if Kurt Stenberg's actually falling away a little bit. 1.5 seconds now, the gap between him and Thomas McMillan, so not looking good for his charge for the podium positions. Thomas McMillan definitely isn't leaving much on the table. He's dipping tyres off the track left, right and centre.
The pace has been upped from race 1. Fastest lap of the race has been set by Jake Maloney on a 21.8, but last race no one else got into the 21s. This time Ethan Warren 21.9, Thomas McMillan 21.9, so their pace has improved. Wonder if Ethan Warren is able to keep up that sort of pace. He's only a second behind Jake Maloney, and if he remains that sort of margin, that's just the sort of margin where you can take over the lead of the race if something happens to Jake Maloney in the pits, or maybe he takes a slightly different strategy and loses out on the out or the in lap. So it's still all to play for in these early stages of the race.
Absolutely is. Sean Allen slowly closing that gap down on Colin Warwick, who's had a messy couple of corners, trying to find his way back past the, I was going to say CWR Racing car, but he is now the Stealth Penrite car along with Jay Borg. his teammate running down in 12th. So Colin Warwick hoping to bank some decent points. Sean Allen, not used to being down in 6th position the last couple of races. He's been up there fighting for the lead, so he would be wanting to make that position back as soon as driverly possible. Not human, like as in not humanly. You get it? It's it was a play on words, a simile, if you will. I'll stop.
Well, I'm smiling.
Oh, David Nenedick.
David Nenedick has come unstuck somewhere. Let's see if we can catch a replay of what happened to him, because he was very much in the thick of a battle right there, and has he just gone?
Oh, never mind.
Catching the end of the spin there, so he's just looks like he'd already dropped off the back of Brody Steen prior to that spin that we just caught the replay of. So anyway, he lives to fight another day, but now he's coming under a little bit of pressure from Adam Zeitinger. He's in 10th place there. He's been a little bit of an anonymous today. I'm trying to remember where he finished in race 1, and that kind of sort of shows what sort of a night he's had. Not particularly featuring in the broadcast much.
I think he finished in the top 10, but it was towards the tail end, around 8th or 9th, I think, off the top of my head. Sort of anonymous, as you do say. Ethan Warren, that gap is coming down to Thomas McMillan behind him, which is making my wallet sweat a little bit, must be said. It is only $10, but, you know, I could use that to afford food, which I can't do otherwise. So, you know, if you do win this bet, Lewis, just remember that you're starving me. Just keep that in mind.
$10. What's that? 3 packets of Indomie noodles?
It's, or, you know, I could trade it on the currency market for 40 billion Zimbabwean dollars and then trade it back and make a profit. I'm sure that's how the currency market works, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll just let that one go through to the keeper. But I think actually to throw you a bone in this particular instance, if you didn't want Thomas McMillan for any possible reason to finish on the podium, you probably want him to catch up to Ethan Warren, because Kurt Stenberg's dropping back. The best chance of him not finishing on the podium is him catching up to Ethan and having a bit of a scrap and coming unstuck in a tangle.
Which is exactly what happened in race 1 between himself and David Nanadick / Nanaditch. Just managed to have a little bit of a tap as he was going up behind him and lost it, went around in a circle. So for sure I am hoping that he catches up to Ethan Warren a little bit faster, but not fast enough to make the pass easy. Isaac Edwards in the chat. You like jazz? I do like jazz. It's very soothing, interesting music.
You like Dags?
You like Dags?
Incidentally, Snatch is a good movie.
Snatch is a fantastic movie, as is most things that that particular director, whose name Guy Ritchie, thank you. His name was evading me. Most movies he makes are quite good. Thomas McMillan within half a second now of Ethan Warren, so that gap is now well and truly visual. Looks as if Colin Warwick coming under attack as well.
That's right. Sean Allen is putting the pressure now on Colin Warwick. So after losing that position to Colin at the beginning of the race, he's now set about trying to rectify that. And that, along with the Ethan Warren Thomas McMillan battle that we were watching a moment ago, those are probably the 2 closest battles on the racetrack. So Zach Baker about 4 seconds behind these 2 guys. He's got a little bit of clear air with Brody Steen, and David Nenadic seemingly having a bit of a troubled afternoon. I say afternoon, I mean evening, of course. He's falling further back off the back of Brody Steen. Not necessarily into the clutches of Jay Borg, who's got to be said is having a strong running in the top 10 after sorry, I'm confused by something in the live chat. Labort.
I appreciate that. Was I think the less said about that, the better. Adam Zeitinger putting Jay Borg under quite a lot of pressure. Really struggling to figure out where you were trying to go with that. Colin Warwick, Sean Allen barging. I would say Sean Allen would probably want to let Colin Warwick get back through, and it looks like he might be doing that, because that looked like a little bit of a messy attempted at overtake. Getting a replay here. Looks like he tried to swap it up the inside of this. He just dives down the inside, and Yeah, a little bit messy there. Just he didn't give himself much time to pull it up. He's let Colin Warwick back through. Hasn't given him much of a lead or leash, it must be said. He's right up behind him. Movie 43 being a particularly bad comedy movie.
I see. That was the comment that severely derailed me not even half a minute ago. But anyway, let's focus on this fantastic battle now going on between Sean Allen and Colin Warwick. As on our other monitor, we see Zach Baker going off at the final corner, but nothing to worry about. He holds on to 7th place with a decent gap to the car behind. What can Sean Allen do now in terms of mounting another attack on Colin Warwick? Colin will know that he's feeling racy now and may not be as courteous in opening the door for him again. Coming down through the sweeper, this is the corner that sets up the overtake into turn 6 and 7 that we saw on the previous lap. Is he close enough to have another go? Looks like he is, but he just wasn't able to pull it off again. So what are we looking at now? Thomas McMillan right on the back of Ethan Warren. Let's rejoin that battle for 2nd place as Ethan Warren lights up the tyres. Thomas McMillan has caught him. Let's look at the lap time. 21.9, 21.9. Very, very similar on the previous lap though. 22.6 to a 22.4. So Thomas McMillan is clawing back the advantage on Ethan Warren.
It's within 0.3 of a second now as they go into the penultimate corner. A little bit of a lock up there from Ethan Warren. Thomas McMillan smooth as you like through the last corner. Maybe a little bit early on the brakes, but gets a good run out. They both get a little bit of a wiggle. So it's pretty much parity through that last corner there. Across the start-finish line. Nowhere for Thomas McMillan to go. Takes a bit more speed than Ethan Warren into that 1st and 2nd corners. But again, just nowhere to go with it. So he's going to have to relegate, #relegated. Get that hashtag going, guys, into 3rd place. Just isn't able to get that job done. Ethan Warren, must be said, doing a fantastic job of driving consistently and smoothly, both the first race and this one. Just not losing any time and being... Oh! As I said that, there was a large lockup. Thomas McMillan.
That was a stairs noise you just made.
Was a stairs noise. Have to put that on the side of Foley's car. Tony is causing a little bit of grief here for Ethan Warren. Thomas McMillan wisely gets out of the way. He is now a lap down. Thomas... Oh my goodness! Oh, that was a huge swapper he suddenly had coming out of that corner. And managed to correct it. But my goodness, I was... my bank account was lighting up for a split second, but now it's all gone away again. Kurt Stenberg, to use a word that you've used, anonymous. 2.4 seconds back to 5th, 3 seconds up to 3rd. Just doesn't... Pace just seems to be nowhere this race. Might be banking on strategy.
Yeah, a bit of green text there for Kurt Stenberg. Colin Warwick has pulled away from Sean Allen, so that threat seems to have died down for the time being. Whether or not that's Colin Warwick just putting in the pace or Sean Allen making a few mistakes, we do not know, and we may never. But that battle for 2nd rages on. That absolutely is as hot as it was last time we were on it, which was not 25 seconds ago, because it is very much the focal point of the race right now, with Jake Maloney seemingly disappearing off into the distance, now 5 or 6 seconds away. The pit window is open, but I haven't seen anyone make their pit stops yet. Just reconnecting our live timing, which appears to have just gone offline. Incidentally, if you do want to follow along, RSM Clan AU .live race. Sorry, beg your pardon. What's going on there? RSM Clan AU .liveraces.com. That's where you find all of the information that we are privy to. But you don't necessarily need to have big lock up there for McMillan. And that's lost him. Our Termo's spun around on our other monitor. We'll try and catch a replay of that. I was trying to say, which always happens, I get interrupted in the middle of a sentence, is that you don't necessarily need live timing to know that there's a good fancy old battle going on for 2nd place. So Termo, Jesus, that was a hell of a spin. As soon as he hit the brake pedals, the thing just looped around on him.
Yeah, might have some very lopsided brake bias on it, perhaps. Kurt Stenberg also had a bit of a moment while we were watching that replay. Just went a little bit wide and lost a bit more time. Now 4.5 seconds behind 3rd place. Although Stephen Burko My goodness, he is off the track. I thought that was going to be a horrible accident there for a split second as he was sliding towards the leaders, but manages to avoid such things, which is good for all of us. Kurt Stenberg.
Oh, curb.
Yeah, very big. Up onto two wheels. Manages to hold it in almost a straight line. So well done him. Kurt Stenberg. Pit stops. Termo we've got coming in. What was it? God, I've tried to say it 3 times now. Kurt Stenberg almost falling into the grasp of Colin Warwick here a little bit. Only 1.6 seconds between the two of them. So we've got Termo in the pits. Adam Zeitinger in the pits as well. Currently our only 2 pitted runners. Steve Birchall with an interesting line.
Ethan Warren's started to stretch away now from Thomas McMillan. Let's see if when they come across the line, whether that was because Thomas McMillan has made a mistake or whether Ethan Warren has just picked up his pace slightly, because there's a bit of a gap. Adam Zeitinger, I think that is in the back.
Flags.
Sorry?
Blue flags.
Yeah, blue flags. So Adam Zeitinger going a lap down to the battle for second. So is that because they've got him on pace, or has he come into the pits?
Adam Zeitinger was one of the
That's
ones in the
right.
pits, yes.
I did write that down. It was on my notebook in front of me, and I neglected to read it.
Fantastic work. Love your work. I'm a car in the live chat saying you guys are awesome commentators, very entertaining. Love it. Love you too, Bay. That is
Right out sideways.
Absolutely fantastic. Right out sideways. Coming from Isaac Edwards. Maybe we need him in the commentary box with a commentary like that. Jake Maloney, dominant, 6.5 seconds ahead of second place man Ethan Warren. So Kurt Stenberg now just doesn't seem to be anywhere this race, which he's 4.3 seconds down on third place, 2 seconds. He's gained some time off of Colin Warwick. That's not the words that I meant to use. He has gained some time over Colin Warwick. He's now 2.4 seconds ahead of the fifth place man, but just doesn't have the pace to catch up to those ahead of him. And he's banking on a mistake to happen, which at the moment doesn't look like it's going to.
A pit stop for Stephen Birchall. He becomes the third man to make his, I want to say compulsory pit stop, but not really mandated by the rules to make a pit stop. It's just that you cannot possibly do this entire race on one tank of fuel unless you have an awful lot of safety car running. But we haven't seen the safety car since the disastrous probably 95% of the race that we had in round 1 in Adelaide held under the safety car, and then the sensitivity was then turned down, and we've thus never seen it since.
Sean Allen with a big lock-up, just avoiding Colin Warwick, which I'm sure Colin Warwick would be very happy about, as they're just lapping Termo there, who has, of course, pit. So the pitted runners, Adam Zeitinger and Termo, have both sort of come out in the midst of this battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, which is not fantastic news for anybody. But the upshot is that Sean Allen has caught a lot of time here on Colin Warwick. He's right up to the back of him again, having lost a bit of time as he outbrakes himself. Take the opportunity to go in the pits, mate. Yep, there he goes. That is the only way to put a silver lining on that particular mushroom cloud. He's managed to get into the pits on lap 15. So have to see if he manages to make the undercut work on Colin Warwick. Kurt Stenberg looks like his pit crew are maybe coming out.
Was that Warwick in?
No, Warwick's still out. Currently just Sean Allen in the pits. Looks as if Kurt Stenberg's crew are getting ready for him to come in. We've got a little icon showing up on the screen. Remains to be seen if that's actually going to mean anything. Basically, Thomas McMillan's caught back up on Ethan Warren. It's just over half a second behind him now, so Ethan Warren may be dropping off, or Thomas McMillan lifting his pace. Looks like the last lap he was about 1/10 of a second slower than Ethan Warren, so I wouldn't think that it's Ethan Warren doing a particularly great job. Just Thomas McMillan just being there, I suppose. They have had lap traffic, so that probably would have been affecting Ethan Warren's pace slightly. Jake Maloney goes around again, and why not? He is 8.4 seconds up, and these tyres don't seem to be hurting him, so absolutely stay out there, mate.
They're in.
They're in.
Ethan Warren and Thomas McMillan have both decided to pit at exactly the same time. So lap 16, not quite half distance yet. That's very interesting. I wonder if that was what Thomas was planning to do anyway. It's a bit of a race now between the pit crews.
It absolutely is. As we watch them, we get to see if someone's putting in a couple more litres of fuel, it might cost them. They were very close. And it looks as if Ethan Warren has managed to get out ahead of Thomas McMillan, who is still stationary. He has lost a lot of time. I saw him reverse. I swear I saw him reverse in the pit stop, so maybe he overshot his pit box and had to back up into it, in which case that would have cost him quite a lot of time. And indeed, it has cost him, he's a couple of cars behind, but he is about 7 seconds now behind Ethan Warren. Damn shame for him. Good news for my wallet. Kurt Stenberg might be able to slip into that gap.
And crucially for Ethan Warren, he's put a car in between himself and Thomas McMillan. But David Nenejic, he came out ahead of him, so it means he won't be struggling trying to pass the car that hasn't come into the pits yet. Thomas McMillan probably won't need to pass David Nenejic. We would expect him to expect David to come into the pits in the next few laps. But that is huge for Ethan Warren's prospects of getting second place. It means he can now focus on setting full. Kurt Stenberg's off the track. What's going on here? Recovering from the grass, so he's had a little bit of an off there. What has happened to Kurt Stenberg? It was
Looked like a glitch.
A bit of a glitch, perhaps? Not another curb glitch, surely. 2 rounds in a row that could potentially... Is it lagged, maybe? Or is it lagged that the reason we don't see it? We got cars in the pits now. Zach Baker and Brody Steen are in.
And Colin Warwick ahead of them has also come into the pits, so have to see if he manages to come out ahead of Sean Allen. Sean Allen is currently coming through the penultimate corner, now rounding the last corner. Colin Warwick has just exited his pit box, is heading towards the exit of the pit lane, is now picking up speed. Sean Allen coming across the start-finish line, and he has not managed to make the position up on Colin Warwick, who hangs on to that provisional 5th, I think it was, but my goodness, that's close.
That was mighty close, but look out for Sean Allen. He's on warm tyres. And Colin Warwick, he's going to drive around the outside of turn 3. Sean Allen, what an absolutely bonkers overtaking manoeuvre.
Fantastic. That is the difference between cold tyres and warm tyres. Colin Warwick just tiptoeing around that 3rd corner. Sean Allen saying, nah, mate, and just flinging it around the outside, managing to get it stuck. And
Stephen Burko's been disqualified for some reason.
Yeah, not sure what that was for. Let me just see if I can get a replay of that while we keep an eye on this battle. Black flag there for Stephen Burko. What is going on? He was just driving around, maybe ignoring blue flags potentially. It looks like he was getting out of the way of Will Devonish, and then I've got no. Oh, he span out, and then he continued on. And then he continued on for a bit more. And then okay. He just seemed to, he didn't take the first corner. He just drove straight on, straight across and into a wall. Actually, no, he didn't hit a wall, continued to move, which is probably why he got disqualified for cutting, let's say, half the track. So I'd say that's probably fair, Stairs. I would not expect anything less.
Looked like he just had enough. And that was his method of retiring from the race. More action in the pit lane now. Kurt Stenberg in. Sorry, that's not right.
In and out. I think he's finished.
He's coming in now. Down to ninth. Jay Borg and Will Devonish are in the pits as well, according to our live timings for Kurt. So down in ninth, that would suggest that he has made his pit stop. So where is he in relation to the guys that he's racing? So he's about 5 seconds behind Brody Steen, Zach Baker in 7th. Colin Warwick, Sean Allen, Thomas.
He's lost a lot of positions.
Yeah, Thomas McMillan has lost Kurt Stenberg has lost a lot of positions. There might have been another excursion that he's had because he was holding down 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he is, once the pit stops shake out, he's looking at probably 7th, I want to say, which is not where I would expect him to be. As you say, he was in 4th pretty solidly between Colin Warwick and Thomas McMillan, but just now it just seems it must have had an accident before he entered the pits.
Yeah, we didn't see that. So the only man ahead of him who has not made his pit stop is David Nedeljc, who we're looking at right now, who's extending that stint out much, much longer than anyone else. He's sat in third by virtue of having stayed out. Means he'll have good fresh tyres towards the back end of this race.
Does mean that he is losing time lap after lap, though, to the cars around him as he is tiptoeing around on older tyres. We have Stephen Burko in the live chat. Car just kept going straight, steering wheel stopped, XD knocked the cord out. So that is a damn shame there for Stephen Burko. Something that's definitely happened to me before. We've also got Lewis Kugali saying rip. Unsure what that was to do with.
John Williamson, a reference that is.
Yes, of the rip and wood chip. Jake Maloney, our race leader in the pits. I don't think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he is going to come out solidly in the lead. He still has about 17 seconds in hand, and he's already leaving his pit box. So a dominant first stint there for Jake Maloney. What can go wrong? Hopefully nothing.
There you go. I should then beg your pardon for what I said earlier on, where I said the only man ahead of Kurt Stenberg who hadn't made his pit stop was David Nedadic, who appears to he's just lost a position. There he is. He's coming into the pits right now. So that is now no longer the case. As I said that, though, that was incorrect because Jake Maloney hadn't made his pit stop, but Jake Maloney, of course, didn't really factor into the equation because he was so far ahead.
Absolutely. My bet not currently looking great. Thomas McMillan solidly in third place with fourth place of Sean Allen. Sean Allen's made that position on Colin Warwick. When's that happened? He's managed to get past the Stealth Penrite Racing driver, now about half a second ahead. Looks as if it happened a fair while ago as well, since it's the replay isn't revealing its particular secrets.
More than a lap ago.
Yeah, no, it happened ages ago. So well done to Sean Allen getting that position done. Wait, no, it happened as he came out of the pits.
Yeah, we covered that.
My goodness, we did cover that, and I just completely forgot. So let's go back about 30 seconds. Colin Warwick coming back at Sean Allen after losing that position coming out of the pits. So Sean Allen definitely can't sit pretty in that fourth position at this point, as we've got Turmo going off in the distance behind them. That's a damn shame. Colin Warwick now all over the back of Sean Allen. He'd be angry. After disconnecting in the first race, he was looking at a good result, so he is wanting to cash in this particular race. And it looks as if he is going to do his level best to do so. I think we've had all our cars pit at this stage. No one out on track still to pit. Possibly Zach Baker.
No, I've got Baker down lap 17, came into the pits. So that's the entire field now having made their pit stops. Lap 22, that's about 2 laps earlier than we thought was the maximum distance that you could make on the fuel, but of course the tyre wear is a factor here, so there really would be no advantage to going really that long on your tyres unless you were trying to stretch it for any weird reason, like your team put you in on, the first 10 laps because there was a safety car and they put you on medium tyres instead of hards. Oh, a bit of a move here now for Colin Warwick. Sean Allen is under pressure for that fourth place. They're 5 seconds adrift of the podium. Those positions look like, and I hate to say this for your sake, they look like they're a dead cert. But, I mean, well, dead certs have become uncerted in our experience quite frequently. So, Sean Allen, does he have an answer for Colin Warwick? He's going to have older tyres. That is the advantage that Colin Warwick has, is fresher tyres to the end of the race. It was the hot tyres that got him back past Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick is going to have less of a problem trying to nurse them to the end of this race. There's 11 laps remaining.
Absolutely. Jake Maloney on those fresh tyres has set a fastest lap of the race, 4/10 faster than his previous fastest, a 1:21.3. So he obviously hasn't gone back into his shell. Now that he's got some new tyres, he's setting some blistering pace on them. But at the moment, all eyes are on this battle here for the fourth position. Closest battle on the track currently. Although Kurt Stenberg is catching up to Brody Steen for 7th position. Kurt Stenberg down 4 positions on his start. So that is a damn shame there for the Trans-Tasman Racing team. Just haven't had a good run of it, and it looks as if Emery Jones hasn't managed to make it to race 2 either. So Trans-Tasman just couple of bad rounds in Perth and here at Winton, but he could potentially make a couple more positions here before the end of the race. There are 11 laps to go. Kurt Stenberg climbing all over the back of Brody Steen.
Jake Maloney at the front of this race bangs out another fastest lap, 21.2, and that's more or less the kind of pace that he was setting in qualifying, so he is absolutely on it today, completely in the zone, and frankly unbeatable. He is only 5 seconds ahead of Ethan Warren, but Ethan Warren just hasn't really looked like a danger to Jake throughout this entire race, or throughout this entire round. Brody Steen now coming under some increasing pressure from Kurt Stenberg, and he'll be used to being behind the back of a Race On Oz car, as he and Sean Allen had a fairly lengthy battle over the final spot of the final spot on the podium in race 1, but that didn't look like it was too difficult for Kurt Stenberg. Down the inside at turn 3, clean as you like, and that's all she wrote. So Kurt Stenberg moves his way up into 7th place. He's got 10 laps and a fair bit of time left to catch up to the next man up the road, which is Zach Baker. Colin Warwick, though, is a further 7 seconds up the road from Baker, so that may well be a bit too much of a tall order for him.
On the subject of Colin Warwick, just barely missing the back there of Sean Allen's Race On Oz Racing. As we see one ASC admin pass a Race On Oz car, we see another one struggling to get past a Race On Oz car. In the chats there we have Wilton's Warrior, which is somewhat fitting, saying Jake Maloney is the Scott McLaughlin of Automobilista. Not sure if that's a compliment or not.
I'd say it is a compliment.
There you go. And we've got Jay Borg getting out of the way of his teammate in Colin Warwick there, coming around the last corner, setting up a dust spray for anyone following along behind them. Sean Allen just seems to be placing the car in the right places to keep Colin Warwick from making that position. And that pass around turn 3 might turn out to be an incredible piece of racecraft if he manages to hold on.
If that doesn't make the highlight reel, then, well, I mean, we make the highlight reel.
Yeah, I was about to say who's making the highlight reel. So we'll make sure that it is on the highlight reel. Let's put that in the book. Write it in. There he goes. It was supposed to be a compliment, says Wilton's Warrior. We did work that out. You'll probably be hearing that right about now as I'm reading you're saying that.
Oh,
Sean
big
Allen.
moment there for Sean Allen. He goes wide. Colin's going to go down the inside.
No, he doesn't manage to do it. Sean Allen parks it on the... Oh! As he gets a big swapper on Colin Warwick up alongside him, coming out of the hairpin, heading down towards the last sector of the track. He's going to have to go around the outside. That's not going to work, I don't think. He tries it. He doesn't get it done, but he's got probably a better run than Sean Allen out of that corner, coming down towards the penultimate corner. He goes for the inside, doesn't have enough time to get it done. He's going to nice early turn in.
Yeah, I thought that Colin was trying to hang it around the outside of the hairpin there, and it just didn't quite manage to do that. He lost out the car length. If he had managed to stay around the outside, it would have given him the inside for the final 2 corners, and that would have been absolutely perfect from Colin Warwick's point of view. He's looking racy here, but Sean Allen is used to this. He's had Kurt Stenberg on his ass for the thick end of the first race. Now he's got Colin Warwick behind him, so he's getting himself a lot of respect, at least from my point of view, because he doesn't defend aggressively. He defends fairly. But he's able to keep cars behind him when they seemingly have a bit more pace there. That's a bit of a move. The door was marginally open. It was slammed firmly shut in Colin Warwick's face. And a little bit of the paint from the door chipped off on his nose. But he's going to have another go. Oh, every single time I look away from the monitor, I look back and Colin Warwick's having a go. You cannot fault this man. He is trying.
He absolutely is. Every time Sean Allen goes into one of these corners, he seems to be going wide and slow, and Colin Warwick is desperate to shove his nose where it doesn't belong and get up alongside, but just hasn't managed to do it. He's lost out a little bit, half a second now, the gap between the two of them, coming around the penultimate corner as he takes a very wide line through the last corner there, nice and early onto the throttle. But he's not going to be able to get the job done. He's now 6/10 behind, so he's going to have to gain over this lap and hopefully have a go probably later on in the lap 27. 7 laps to go, Stairs. This is, I got to say, this has flown by.
It absolutely has, and having made the move on Brody Steen, Kurt Stenberg is now just 2 seconds behind Zach Baker and lapping pretty quickly at the moment. There is Kurt Stenberg, about 1 second a lap faster than Zach Baker on the previous lap. So 2 laps and he'll be right on him and trying to make that move up into 6th place. And if we compare to the battle that we have been following of Sean Allen and Colin Warwick, they're in the low 22s, early 23s. So the sort of pace that Kurt Stenberg's knocking out at the moment, he may, if he can clear Zach Baker very quickly, he may have just enough time to... I'll eat my words, actually. That's a 10-second gap. He won't have enough time to catch them. He'll need a bit... As I say, Sean Allen and Colin Warwick have spun around, and that is... What caused that? Was that a mistake from Sean Allen, or was that Colin Warwick going into the back of him? We are going to catch the replay. The answer will be coming to you very, very shortly. He was clear. He was about 2 or 3 car lengths clear, not necessarily under immediate pressure, and he just spun it round. And unfortunately, a little bit of contact there. I don't think that would have done too much damage to Colin Warwick, and it's nothing to worry about from Colin Warwick's point of view. If anything, it expedited Sean Allen's recovery to the racetrack. That's very, very disappointing. And I think that's Zach Baker there, not particularly pleased with Sean Allen's rejoin as he goes off. So it's all going downhill there for Sean Allen. So that is now Kurt Stenberg is through, and Kurt Stenberg on... Oh, he's up to 5th already.
He's managed to get that. Sean Allen has dropped down past Kurt Stenberg and Zach Baker. Zach Baker incredibly messy through the first chicane, and Kurt Stenberg taking full advantage, so up into 5th place. Just as you were saying that there was pretty much no chance of him getting up to that position, he's managed to do it.
Commentator's curse.
Absolutely, the commentator's curse. Zach Baker with a very hairy little swap on there, but Kurt Stenberg now up into 5th place. He does have the better part of 8 seconds to gain onto Colin Warwick, who pit, I believe, pretty much on the same lap as him, maybe the lap earlier. So I don't think he's going to be able to close that gap down. But still, 5th position, considering he was in 9th not a couple of laps ago, is probably a good return on investment for Kurt.
Yeah, you want to hope that the fairies don't have chlamydia, because Kurt's just been kissed on the dick by them.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thomas McMillan, very hairy there through the first chicane. My eyes lit up a little bit there. It looked like he was going straight to the scene of the accident, but he's managed to avoid it. He's got 13 seconds now is the gap between Ethan Warren and Thomas McMillan. So with that pit stop, he lost about 7 seconds, and he just hasn't been able to live with the pace, I suppose. So he's relegated to the 3rd position on the podium. My co-commentator currently inhaling loudly through his teeth, as I believe Zach Baker is under tremendous assault from Sean Allen.
Yeah, Sean is very upset with himself, and he wants to make amends. So we saw... Oh, and that's wide! He's wide! Zach Baker is wide. Sean Allen has been given an absolute freebie right there, and is trying to... in trying to put pressure on Zach Baker, he's certainly achieved the desired result. Moves himself back up into 7th, a far cry from where he was a little earlier on. Kurt Stenberg through, and certainly Colin Warwick is a bit out of reach. We've just seen on the other monitor Steve Birchall and Termo having a bit of an accident. We'll try and catch a replay of that. I don't know what that was.
That looked like a bit of a terminal accident there for Termo. My commentator is currently head in hands. I apologise. But regardless, we've just seen it there. A big shunt from Stephen Birchall into the back of Termo. So probably not particularly enjoying that. But they're catching up to the lapped runners currently being lapped further by Ethan Warren. As Ethan Warren, as I say, takes that position over from Termo. Currently at the front, we have Jake Maloney 12 seconds ahead of Ethan Warren, who is himself 12 seconds ahead of Thomas McMillan, who is the better part of 7 seconds ahead of Colin Warwick, who is the better part of 7 seconds ahead of Kurt Stenberg. So,
He spun it around as we got to him, but he had enough of an advantage over Sean Allen. He doesn't want to go behind Sean Allen. He spent so much time behind Sean Allen in the first race. If you're a Kurt Stenberg fan, you do not necessarily have a good, healthy heart, because he certainly puts you through the ringer.
I just cannot believe that. Perfect timing. I just can't. Sean Allen now within half a second of Kurt Stenberg. Kurt Stenberg previously with a comfortable lead of about 7 seconds, as I believe I was just rattling off. So he is now going to be put under pressure by the Race on Oz driver. Sean Allen, no stranger to harsh to pressure situations, having have a Colin Warwick right up his ass for the entire race up until a few laps ago. Very
deep from Kurt.
Yeah, very deep from Kurt and very aggressive from Sean Allen. Is he going to have to be able to have a go down to turn 3? Doesn't look like it. Kurt managed to recover just well enough. So this is going to be, I think you can say 4th position is now off the table for Kurt Stenberg. This is going to be a defensive driving masterclass from the Tasman Racing driver to hang on to this 5th position and minimise this hurt in the championship. Down a position from his starting position, and just his championship rival unmatched out at the front. Now 14 seconds, the gap between Ethan Warren and Jake Maloney.
What a terrific race this has been from start to finish. Just reading some of the comments coming through on the live chat. Must be Snapchatting. Thanks, Fen. Hashtag. Not sure what that means, but I'm sure it's very amusing to all the people who... I thought that Kurt was going around again. That was a bit of a snappy oversteer moment on the exit of turn 10. I wonder if he can hang on for these next 3 laps. It's going to be interesting. The stock take that we were going through, let's see if we can get back through it before something else happens. So Sean Allen is still in 6th place. That's where he was when we started the stock take. He's got about 1.7 seconds to Zach Baker in 7th place. Zach Baker is ahead of Brody Steen by a fairly comfortable margin as well. David Nenadich dropping off the back of Brody Steen of everyone basically in the early part of this race. So it's been a bit of a hard race from him. He's the last man on the lead lap. Behind him is Jay Borg in 10th place. Will Devonish not too far behind. They're having a decent old race there, fighting over the last spot in the top 10. Adam Zeitinger down 3 spots off where he started in 12th place. Termo and Stephen Birchall resuming their battle from earlier on, so just good mates. Tony in 15th place is the last man on track with the DNF of Ozrob, and of course Stephen Burko being DQ'd for reasons mentioned earlier on in the race. We're looking now at the battle between Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg, though. That is the closest on track, and it appears as though we've had a change in position. So, commentator's curse strikes again. Where did that happen? Where did Kurt Stenberg allow Sean Allen through? We're going to catch the replay. It appears as though it was down... where is that? Down at turn 9, it looks like. No, that had already happened at that stage. Beg your pardon. It was through the sweeper. It's an unlikely overtaking opportunity. Was that a moment there for Kurt Stenberg? Yes, he got wide out onto the marbles, and Sean Allen, certainly not one to refuse an invitation, said thank you very much, and I'll have a +1 as well. Although +1 is actually a few car lengths behind, so that analogy doesn't work very well.
Absolutely. Damn shame there for Kurt Stenberg, although he is not giving up on this. He is all over the back of Sean Allen. His car is twitching left and right. He has got about a lap and a half to get this position done. He's down the inside. Yeah. Oh, no! He spun him. Oh, he spun him out. He's continued. Oh, he's continued on. He's managed to have a minimal loss of time, considering what a big accident that was. Looks as if Sean Allen might have a little bit of damage. He's very slow there. Kurt Stenberg all over the back of him. He's got a lap to go. Judging off the current pace between the two, I'd say Kurt Stenberg should have a look through the last lap. It's going to be an interesting finish for sure. Kurt Stenberg into the penultimate corner. He is, I get the feeling he's driving angry. He's all over those curbs. He is so close through that last corner. He is close enough to have a go into the inside of turn 1. Send it. Just send it. Hashtag send it. Hashtag. No, he's hashtag relegated back down into 6th place still. Oh, Sean Allen with a terrible first corner. No. Oh, little bump, and Kurt Stenberg's up alongside.
Oh, I thought Kurt had been checked up on the exit, but he's managed to get himself up on the inside, but he's caught up on the curve, and Sean Allen, the outside special, round turn 4, But who's going to have it round down to turn 5? Sean Allen has the inside. There's no way Kurt's going to be able to make the move around the inside of turn 5. Zach Baker's buying into this behind them. They're 46 seconds behind the leader. He must be coming across the line. Jake Maloney wins the race. Jake Maloney wins the race. Ethan Warren distant 15 seconds. The battle for third between Thomas McMillan and Colin Warwick. Where did that come from? It's a lot closer than we expected. I think that's fairly safely in the pocket of Thomas McMillan. Oh, I say that. They're both in that shot. I don't know where to look, but Colin Warwick is certainly going to think of... No, he's not. He's too far back. We're looking on the other monitor. Sean Allen still holds down 5th place over Kurt Stenberg. Or is it going to be a drag race? A late move, final corner. Colin Warwick gets onto the podium at the death. What a move! Unbelievably disappointing for Sean McMillan. The $10 at the death goes in favour of my co-commentator behind me. Sean Allen hangs on from Kurt Stenberg. Zach Baker in 7th behind him. Brody Steen in 8th place. And David Nenadic will finish a distant 9th, the final man on the lead lap. Oh my goodness, Thomas. Oh, you ran out of fuel. Is that what happened? Oh, Thomas McMillan. Well, he certainly was an aggressive driver. Apparently he didn't put enough fuel in at his pit stop.
My goodness, I'll give you a moment to breathe there, Stairs, because good lord, what a last lap. 2 changes for position in the last lap of the race. Jake Maloney coming home comfortably in the lead, Ethan Warren, and Colin Warwick, a surprise last position on the podium. Lewis Cagley, I'll send you my PayPal details as soon as I'm off this broadcast. I never doubted it for a second. He says, having doubted it for a large majority of the race. Thomas McMillan, unfortunately, under-fueling on his stop. Despite stopping for so much longer than Ethan Warren, he under-fueled, ran out of fuel. That is a damn shame. And Kurt Stenberg, hashtag relegated to 6th position after an incredibly racy last 2 laps. How close could he have possibly gotten to Sean Allen without making that position? I think we just saw it. So that was absolutely fantastic. And I did want to say in the live chat there was a couple of people, Josh Anderson and Lewis Cagley, I believe, both saying that they love the commentary, good work, and etc. etc. Greatly appreciate it, boys. I'm glad to have you guys along for the ride as well. And don't forget, a little bit of self-promotion, don't forget to give us a like on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube, Apex Rear Wing, and indeed a follow on Instagram, Apex Rear Wing. We do a bunch of stuff and jump on it all. We're similarly hilarious and entertaining in everything that we do, so highly recommend that. So I guess it's going to Roadies Racing saying that Madbird is bloody lucky. Nope, I saw that coming from the outset. I knew that was going to happen. I'm giving Thomas McMillan $5 of my $10 to underfuel himself and finish in 4th position. Definitely not actually the case. I'm not the sort of man to race fix, but I am nevertheless filling madly for time because Stairs appears to be busy doing other things. Stairs, how's your pulse, mate? Just to steal your thing, how's your pulse? I'm not going out on a limb. He's feeling his neck? He's looking thoughtful.
Tell you what, I can't actually feel my pulse on my wrist, but I can feel it in my neck. That's by the by, of course. We're waiting to see whether any of the drivers are going to join us post-race for an interview, but my goodness gracious me, what a race. Let's have a quick recap of the results, if we can just grab them up on the live races results. Jake Maloney, of course, victorious by quite a margin. So Ethan Warren behind him in 2nd place. Colin Warwick stealing 3rd place at the death from Thomas McMillan. That was quite a remarkable finish. We found out from thus far unconfirmed source that Thomas McMillan is in the... Thomas McMillan ran out of fuel towards the back end of that race. Sean Allen staying ahead of Kurt Stenberg, Zach Baker ahead of Brody Steen, David Nenadic back end of the top 10. Jay Borg in 13th place. Will Devonish, Adam Zeitinger, Stephen Birchall, Termo, Tony and Steve Burko, and of course the back end of those. Well, Burko was the DQ, and I believe it was it Tony who DNF'd?
No, Ozrob DNF'd, I believe, and Steve Burko, as you say, with a DQ. So just waiting for a couple of our runners to hop down into the Nevermind. We're going to have a quick pit stop, and on the other side of this break, we'll have a chat to some of our podium sitters from both races. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Jake Maloney continued an amazing run of qualifying form, taking pole position over Kurt Stenberg, who lost second off the start in his own continued run of bad starts.
Terrible start from Kurt Stenberg.
Trans-Tasman Racing's fortunes weren't on the rise as Emily Jones, on her first race back since round 1, lost control while battling with Zach Baker and had to retire. It would only get worse as Scott Nolan crashed into Kurt Stenberg at the front, sending him tumbling down the order. Jake Maloney, however, would come unstuck on the final corner due to a glitch in the track.
Jake Maloney's off, he's gone off.
He wouldn't be the last, but he was certainly the one with the most to lose. Comfort to Kurt Stenberg, who was now a lap down. At the front, Sean Allen for Race on Oz inherited the lead, having an incredible scrap with Zach Baker for the last handful of laps. In the end though, Sean Allen was able to hold off Baker, with his Race on Oz teammate Brody Steen coming home in third in an incredible result for the team championship hopefuls. For race 2, Kurt Stenberg was odds-on favourite for pole after Jake Maloney had decided to start from the back of the grid. However, at the last gasp, Sean Allen pulled out a 53.3 to take the front spot on the grid, surprising the commentators as well as himself.
Sean Allen crosses the line with a 53.31.
When the flag dropped, Kurt again had a bad start, but managed to defend his second position from Zach Baker and quickly put Sean Allen under pressure. Jake Maloney was setting the world on fire from the back of the grid, up 7 spots by the end of lap 6.
I would not be surprised to see him up on the podium at this rate.
Kurt Stenberg fell victim to the last corner glitch, cruelly toppling him from his second position. Jake Maloney would eventually find his way back up to 4th once the pit stop shook out, an incredible feat for someone starting from the back of the grid. This led to a fantastic lap-long side-by-side battle for the last place on the podium, which Corey Preston would eventually lose.
Wow!
Sean Allen would cross the line to make it 2 from 2 at the Perth Super Night, while Zach Baker made it 2 2s from 2, coming home in second. Jake Maloney astoundingly finished in third, while Kurt Stenberg's recovery to 7th allowed him to keep a narrow lead on the Drivers' Championship heading into round 6 at Winton. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Wherever you're watching, around the country, or indeed the world. We're here in Kota, Monaco,
Sydney, Imola, Shanghai, Albert Park, Austria, Suzuka.
Down the inside of Pablo, and there's contact!
Spun out already!
They've had to double stack!
Tyres that you could dig them up and look at them on the fossil records.
So, Usain Bolts of hairpins.
He's missing a rear tyre.
Welcome back to Winton. We've just had 2 magnificent races and one hell of a finish to race 2 in the Winton SuperSprint. This is round 6 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship, and the emphatic round win goes to Jake Maloney. Pole position in both races and victory in both races. Jake, it was a pretty good round for you.
Yeah, it went pretty well. Probably as well as it could have. I sort of knew from the first few laps of practice I felt pretty comfortable here and thought might be able to do well.
Well, and that's basically put you in the lead of the championship as well. So as far as our statistician has just worked out, 21-point lead in the championship to you now.
Oh, nice. Oh, don't talk about the championship until after the Enduros. The classic.
Fair enough. There is a long way to go in this championship, but you're certainly putting yourself in a strong position in this early part of the championship. How do you keep yourself in a positive frame of mind during those laps where you're all alone? It's very easy to make a mistake, I should think. So how do you stay concentrated?
I don't know. I was just talking to people on Discord. Yeah, just I know. Found it after the practice laps I did. It wasn't too difficult to keep concentrating.
There you go. Well, congratulations on a fantastic victory, both wins and both pole positions.
Cheers, guys. Cheers for the broadcast.
Thank you. Moving along to Sean Allen, finishing third in the first race after a very good battle with Kurt Stenberg and absolutely in the wars all throughout race number 2. Sean, how did the night go for you in your words?
Terrible. Put it bluntly, the car wasn't very nice at all. I was lucky in race 1 to sort of keep Kurt behind me, and then race 2 I decided at the end there I'd race him again.
Yeah, it was almost a carbon copy of what happened in race 1 with Kurt having issues and he came up behind you. Talk about that pressure in the final laps of the second race.
I don't think it was so much pressure. I was just trying to keep the car on the track, which was incredibly difficult for whatever reason. But I had a big smile on my face racing Kurt again. It was just brilliant down side by side through some of those corners where you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. That was it was fantastic to watch. And then, of course, that was off the back of more or less the same thing in race 1. You managed to keep him behind for the podium.
Yeah. Well, you've got to really throw it down the inside to get through on this track. And he had a couple of digs at me, but I just put the car in the right spot. And unless he was going to turn me around, he wasn't getting past.
There you go. Well, we saw, I'm trying to remember if it was you or the other race on Oscar, there was a little moment where there was a bit of contact, but then Kurt lifted off not to let them through. Was that you or was that your teammate?
Might have been me. I don't know. Kurt hit me a couple times. But I guess at the end of race 2, yeah, through one at the last hairpin, he tagged me and I did a half spin and he sort of stayed back to let me stay in front, which was nice of him.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your podium in race 1 and a decent haul of points in race 2 as well.
Yeah, thanks. Can't complain too much, I guess.
No worries. Moving on, we don't have our second place man from both races, Ethan Warren, with us, but we do have podium sitter for race number 2, Colin Warwick, and it was looking for the most part like he wasn't going to finish on the podium until the very last lap of the race and the last corner, just getting past where it appears that Thomas McMillan ran out of fuel. So, Colin, just walk us through that second race from your point of view. It looked like a frantic one.
Yeah, I saw the time in the top left. McMillan, the time was coming back to me, so I thought he's either running out of fuel, he's got a big problem. And just, went for it and got him at the last corner, which was really good. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was something that made us go crazy, I have to say, in the in the commentary box. So to do it right at the death, it must be exciting.
It was, especially after dropping out in race 1. That was a pretty big disappointment. And just get a P3. Happy with that in the new team, so it's good.
Absolutely. So is this a permanent fixture now, you in the Penrite car, or are you going back
yes,
to the
it is.
There it is. So you heard it here first, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be honest, this is mostly a male-dominated sport, but there are maybe a couple of women who watch. I'm digging myself a hole here. So thank you, thanks Colin for joining us, and congratulations on your race 2 result. Commiserations for the DNF in race 1.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for the broadcast.
Just on a personal note, I did want to say conspicuous by his absence on the podium in race 2 was Thomas McMillan. Thanks very much for saving me $10, mate, and underfueling your car there on that stop. My ability to buy a breakfast tomorrow is really going to appreciate that.
Yeah, look, that wasn't ideal, was it? Overshot my peat box. Lost about 10 seconds. Didn't even realise. I thought I was in my pit box. I reversed back and didn't take enough fuel. I was like, oh no, I got to save like 2.5 laps of fuel. Bit of pleb moment. It wasn't good. Colin got me in the last corner. Wasn't too happy about that. But well done to Colin and also Maloney. His pace was unbelievable. No one could match him. But yeah, it's not a bad track. Didn't exactly suit my driving style, but kind of had to change that up a bit. But yeah, good race.
You say it doesn't suit your driving style. You gained 12 positions in the first race, starting from 19th and ending in 7th. Was that just you like sweeping your way through I don't want to say children, but like just sweeping past slower cars for the most of it, or did you feel like you had to actually battle your way up there?
I felt fairly easy. I felt like I had quite a big pace advantage over a few of the guys mid-pack to the back. Yeah, I had a really good start actually. Got 2 rows off the start, and then I had contact with another car. Kind of lost around 10 seconds, which sucks because I would have been up there with Stenny, but oh well, that happens. P7 and P4, I can't complain.
Absolutely, that's racing, and a solid couple of results for yourself. So, well done to Thomas McMillan. Back to you, Stairs.
Thank you very much indeed. That was, in my opinion, I think the best round we've had so far. It had everything. So I can't wait for more of the same, hopefully, next time out in Darwin. We're just about out of time, so don't forget to tune in 3 weeks' time for round 7. That's Tuesday the 18th of June, the Darwin Triple Crown up at Hidden Valley. If you enjoyed what you saw tonight, don't forget to follow Automobilista Supercars on all the social circles, Facebook, Instagram, and please do share this with anyone who might be interested in watching some bloody good racing, if I do say so myself. We believe that this is fast becoming the most competitive sim racing series in Australia outside of iRacing, so let's get some more people watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Stairs.
And I've been Madbird, and see you next time.
Bye for now.